Good evening and welcome to Year One TV. We are here at Donington Park National Circuit for the first meeting of the British Sim Racers TCR Championship. The British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship has been running now for over 9 years, and we have seen some fantastic racing over those 9 years, and a new season will bring new hopes, new dreams, new drivers, and of course, the exciting racing we're accustomed to. My name is Dan Blake. In the commentary box, I will be your commentator for this evening. And alongside me as well, we have Reese Saunders, fresh from an MX5 debut on Tuesday. How are you this evening, Reese?
Good evening. Hi, everyone. How are we? Looking forward to see if the TCR series can live up to the great night's racing we had on Tuesday in the BSR series. We've got a good field, and say, looking at those practice times, they're very closely bunched up. So we should have a great night's racing lined up for us. There's 4 15-minute races tonight with a 15-minute qualifying session. And I say we've got 3 reverse grid races in that as well, which will be decided by the Wheel of Fortune. So yeah, really looking forward to getting my teeth stuck into it.
And as you say, Reese, that 15-minute qualifying session, all important, as top 5 in qualifying separated by less than a tenth and a half. So not much space at all. So I think Luke Jones has maybe entered the wrong race. He's the only Audi in a field of Hyundais. We do have 2 different types of Hyundai. We have the Hyundai Veloster, 2 of those. But the car which has the most entry is the Hyundai Elantra, the most popular choice in this championship. And it will be interesting to see just how the Veloster and the Audi RS3 do stack up against the Elantra tonight.
Yeah, obviously people must have done some sort of research, but they've got to learn that variety is the spice of life. It's not a single make championship. So it'll be good to see how the different brands and how the different models get on as well. Obviously the 2 Velosters and the RS3 against, I think we've got 11 Elantras in here this evening. So yeah, it will be spot the Audi, a rose between thorns perhaps. So yeah, looking forward to see how it fares and just how the field sorts itself out. As I say, we've currently got Joe Winter leading the way in practice, but he's so closely pursued. It'll be great to see what happens in this first qualifying session and what strategies people get involved with, especially considering we've got some teams here as well. Obviously, we've got Year One represented, as well as AA Tech and some races as well. So really looking forward to seeing what drafting techniques people use. Will people go out pairs as threes? And yeah, what the tyre strategy will be as well. So looking forward to it, Dan.
That is a very important point you make about tyres. Of course, with the BSR Championships, this one no different. They do actually run the 1-car rule in qualifying, so not able to tow if you have a crash. And if you want to change tyres, you will have to come in and make that pit stop. And the pit stop time for the front is about 22 seconds here in this TCR car. And as you say, front's very important in the TCRs. You may not actually need to do all 4, just those front tyres, but qualifying will be very important. There are some new drivers, but also some drivers from last season as well. But interestingly, we are missing last season's champion, Andy McEwen. He's actually away on real world broadcasting duties, and there's a few other drivers who've not been able to make the trip to Donington Park tonight. And it'll be interesting to see sort of over the course of the season what missing this round would do, of course, because that means they've lost the drop round, where some of the racers who race tonight may be able to afford maybe later in the season to have the odd bad race because they've got this one in hand. And with the drop scores, it does put a little bit more pressure on you then to make the most of the rest of the races as well.
Yeah, obviously tonight's first night of the championship, so everyone starts from 0 points, but not everybody's taking the opportunity to get some points on the board. We've got the 3 classes as well, which has to be mentioned, and that's one of my favourite things about BSR, is everybody's got something to race for, be it the pro class and overall honours, albeit also Pro-Am and Am as well. So we've got almost 3 separate races happening within each race tonight. So really looking forward to seeing who can get honours in each class.
And last year's Pro-Am champion, James Neve, of course, promoted up into the pro class. Also, last season's Am champion is back as well, Fiona Siddons. She'll be in the Pro-Am class. Fiona not here tonight. As I say, Andy McEwen, he is signed up but not here tonight as well. But we do have some very good drivers in the field. We've got the likes of Wayne Douglas, and Wayne Douglas, not only a very good driver in his own right, he was nominated for the Autosport Young Driver of the Year award. He was a Formula Vauxhall champion in 1995, but also, of course, the team manager of Douglas Motorsport in real life. And such names as Enzo Fittipaldi, Niall Murray, Andrew Watson, Stuart Middleton, Daniel Harper, those are just some of the names of the drivers that Wayne Douglas over the years has brought through his team. So not only a great driver in his own right, but of course he has a very, very good pedigree as a team manager and bringing through talent as well. We also have on the grid Luke Pullen from the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship as well. So we have a mix of real-life racers and sim racers, and they will be looking to go for pole position in the qualifying session, which is just getting underway now.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Let's get started. Let's get our teeth into it and see who can get themselves out on top. Yeah, and we can just see cars starting to pull out onto the track now. And yeah, you can see, I think we're focused racing on Wayne Douglas, actually. Funnily enough, in a Hyundai Elantra. Yeah, looking forward to getting our teeth stuck in. 14.5 minutes left of qualifying already. So that time will tick down. So it's important to get an early banker lap in, build some confidence. Dan, I know you do some racing in real life yourself. What's always your trick? Do you do open qualifying in this kind of format of like a time session? Do you like to get a lap in early, build some rhythm up, or do you save it all for one Hail Mary at the end?
It depends on the circumstances, really. Some cars, I did have the advantage sort of yesterday. I did go out into a practice session in the TCRs, and the first couple of laps may not actually be your best laps. You've got to get it all warmed up, and it may have been the setup I was on, but I just found it very understeery, sort of just until the tyres got into that right frame of mind that they wanted to do, push and do the time. So that could be something that we see as well in this session. But yeah, the Donington Park circuit, a very good circuit for racing on. I've done a few races around here as well, and I believe I want to believe hearing on Tuesday you have some experience around here as well, Reese. So as I say, a very good track, and it'd be one that would test the drivers to their full. Some big corners, including Old Hairpin. That is one corner. If you get it wrong, you can lose a whole heap of time.
Yes, no, it's the only track on the schedule. So it's a 10-round series we've got here for the BSR. And it's the only track on the schedule that I've got experience in. But Dan, I know you've got a little bit more experience than I do. But yeah, we've got 2 visits to Donington this season. And we've also got 2 visits to Brands Hatch as well. And then we're off to Alton Park, Snetterton, Knockhill, and Monza 2. I think we've also got 2 visits to Silverstone as well. I quite like that it mirrors the real-world touring car series as well. So we finish off at Brands Hatch GP, just like the real-life British touring cars do as well. So looking forward to seeing how this all plays out over 10 weeks. And you're right, those drop courses can be so important down.
Yeah, exactly. As you say, 10-week season, and British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship, one of the biggest championships and longest established championships, not just in the UK and I, but maybe the whole of iRacing as well. The first race happened in May of 2013. So British Sim Racers Touring Car Championship, through its different guises, over 9 years old and still producing the same great racing. You say we've got 10 meetings this season, 40 different races. There will be thrills and spills along the way. As I say, we have the 9 domestic-based rounds at the circuits across the UK. Then we also make that trip to Monza, which will be spectacular. Just looking through some of the early times that have come in at the moment, it is currently Martin Shirley on pole position, and Martin Shirley, in fact, the Pro-Am driver in the Elantra. So but that's the great things we say about the 3 different classes, is that we may see some of these classes intertwining with each other through the race. They'll have their own championships to fight for. Speaking of the Pro-Am, last year's Pro-Am champion James Neve took 15 Pro-Am wins in the season last year. So James Neve, someone to potentially look out for in the Pro class. We see him there as well in the year 1 car. And as I say, all different classes racing. We have Pros, Pro-Ams and Ams in the session. Alistair Hatcher was very close in the Am Championship last year, finishing second to Fiona Siddons. And he had 9 victories in that Am Championship last season. Third place, a certain Sir Alan Toon as well. Shame we don't have Sir Alan on the grid this season. Maybe I'll come out and play later in the season. But as we see, it's drivers all through sort of the spectrum. We have the very fast drivers, we have drivers in the Pro-Am, and then we also have our Am drivers who are learning as well. And at times, come flying in. Joe Winton, I guess, provisional pole with a 111.379, just under a tenth between himself and Martin Shirley. But then it's very close between Paul Cook and Wayne Douglas in 4th place, just over a hundredth of a second there, as we see Wayne Douglas going through old Hairpin.
Yes, now the field's starting to bunch up, and in fact, our top 5 still only separated by 2 tenths. But it's important. Lap 1 from Martin Shirley was an 11.9. Joe Winters then come through with that 11.3, so you can see, even though the space of 1 lap, the field's gone 6 tenths of a second faster, so I'd expect those times to continue to tumble. I believe the quickest time in practice was at 1 minute 10.8. There's still a bit more times left in these drivers, and we'll see, so it's definitely an early feeling out phase here in qualifying.
There's some purple sectors as well. I see Reese on the screen as well. Joe Winter has got purple sector 2. Paul Cook, fastest in sector 1 as well. Joe Winter's lap is a 1:11. His lap was a 1:11.086. Goes pole position, extends that lead out now. But Paul Cook has crossed the line in second place, a 1:11.179. So just under a tenth of a second separating our top two. James Neve as well pops in a time, which puts him in third place, 1:11.250. Times are definitely starting to reduce, as you say, Reese. The drivers starting to get these tyres heated up, starting to get into the swing of things now. But it has taken pretty much half of this session for them to do so. We have just over 9 minutes left of this 15-minute session, and at the moment, actually only 11 cars have put times in at the moment, and maybe some off-track issues there, as I say. Going through Old Hairpin, there's also the off-track, which is quite easy to get through McLean's. That's something also maybe to watch out for. They need to be able to get a lap in to get a time which will put them, or they'll still qualify if they don't make a time, but it'll make it hard for them in the first race.
Yes, definitely. Thankfully, it is a fairly small field this evening, so if you do make those mistakes in qualifying, you do put yourself at the back, you're not losing too much ground. With the field being so close and so competitive, if you do find yourself off the back and you lose a second or two at the start of the race picking your way through, then you just won't be able to get that time back throughout the race. And as we talk, time's still tumbling. So Martin Shirley now, a 1:10.9. It's our first drivers breaking that 1:10 barrier. Winter did improve very slightly, I believe, but say still in second place. Paul Cook in third, Holmes in fourth, and then James Neve just improving as I'm talking to P5 as well. And again, you can see, so you've got the two Simtech racing cars, three Simtech racing cars all together at line of stern there. And I've seen James Neve out there as well with his year one teammates. And again, you know, back to back, using that draft with each other, you know, boosting each other's lap times there. But yeah, so you've got the three car STR racing all together at the moment. So yeah, using those team tactics pretty well so far, Dan.
Slipstream maybe not as big of a factor as it could be in some other formula, but it still does make a huge difference. Somewhere like Donington National, you've got two long straights. You've got the long one up from Old Hairpin up to McLean's as well. You've got the long back straight going in to the Robert Chicane. And as we see now, Lee Holmes actually and Luke Pullen on personal best laps at the moment, going green in sector 2, as Lee Holmes in fact goes purple in sector 3, but it's only enough. But there's maybe a little bit of contact there as Wayne Douglas and one of the other cars there. It looked like there was potentially maybe a slight contact. It won't matter in terms of damage, but if there was a 0x, that will affect this next lap as well. But as we see, Lee Holmes has gone up into second place for that time, a 1:11.077, and it is so close between second and fourth. Those cars are separated by just over a tenth, and then there's a bit of a gap back to James Neve in fifth place. But as far as the classes go at the moment as well, Martin Shirley, of course, we say Pro-Am driver, he's on overall pole position. Lee Holmes, Joe Winter, and the car of Paul Cook, I believe, are all drivers who will be racing in our pro class. Yes, they are indeed. Then you've got Swaze Fitzpatrick, a pro driver. So Martin Shirley really sort of the class of the field outside the pros at the moment. The next Pro-Am is Luke Pullen in 8th. So it's already, even at this early stage of the season, Martin Shirley looking good at the moment for Pro-Am pole. And it's also important to remember that not only are they fighting for pole position, but of course pole position in the British Sim Racing Touring cars as well gets you 2 championship points. So whoever takes pole will be the leader of the championship, albeit only for 15 minutes.
There we are. It's very important to know. And what difference will those 2 points make towards the end of the season? And as you were talking there, Dan, Joe Winter's gone back up into P2, only by 0.005 of a second over Lee Holmes. So still mightily tight. But yeah, no one can get within a tenth of Martin Shirley so far. He's got a very strong claim. And yet we're up to 13 drivers currently having set a time. Obviously, Shirley's on overall pole as well as Pro-Am pole. We've got Joe Winter in second, although he's also in Pro pole as well. And then you've got Luke Jones, who's currently leading the way in AM over Alistair Hatcher. And Glenn Humberstone hasn't set a time just yet in his Hyundai Elantra. Well done to you as well. You've took the first bite at trying to pronounce Fitzpatrick's first name. I'm not quite brave enough for that yet. But if anyone would like to leave a comment, I'm not going to butcher it. If anyone would like to leave a comment in YouTube comments how I'm going to pronounce that, I'm willing to take any suggestions on.
Yes, our first night in the commentary box, so we do apologise if there's any names that we may get slightly wrong. I think we go with Swase at the moment, but Swase, of course, in 6th place, and he's also in the high end of Veloster as well. So that is the first of our non-Elantras, and that's in 6th place, currently about 3/10 off of pole position. And we said, talk about Luke Jones, he's the driver in the Audi RS3. So the Audi RS3 actually currently the car which is on pole position for the AM class as well. So the Audi 12th overall, but pole in AM as the session. Time flies when you're having fun, as I say. The session now well over 10 minutes old. We're in the final third of the session. In fact, there is a car in the pit lane as well, which is Ian Manners in 9th place. He's currently in the pits, and we have a run through the drivers now. Courtesy of Graham Sesswood, as we just watched Ian Manners, and Ian Manners taking those tyres, like we mentioned earlier, also in the pits. Martin Shirley, the provisional pole position man. So I did wonder if tyres would become a factor, and it looks like some drivers are going in for those pit stops.
Yes, so just running through the order whilst we've got this moment to kind of catch our breath, although knowing these TCR drivers, it'll probably change as I'm running on through it. So we've got Martin Shirley currently in provisional pole, followed by Joe Winter, Lee Holmes in P3, Paul Cook in 4th, James Neve rounding out the top 5. You've got Fitzpatrick in P6, Wayne Douglas down in P7, Luke Pullen in P8, Ian Manners in the pit lane and also in P9. And then we've got Craig McDonald in P10 and Rob Jackson in P11 rounding out our Pro-Ams. Alistair Hatcher has now overtaken Luke Jones for AM pole currently, but there's very little separating them. And then you've got Luke Jones in 13th place. And then you've got Glenn Humberstone, who hasn't yet set a time and doesn't look like he's connected to the session. Oh, and as I mentioned that, Luke Jones again overtakes Alistair Hatcher. So they might be in the AM class, but they're having a right ding-dong battle for the pole position of their class. So one to look for, not just at the front, but also in AM as well done.
Exactly, all three classes, and also something that maybe that we haven't mentioned previously as well is with the smaller field, we could see some of the drivers who maybe wouldn't finish so high up overall in sort of a full strength race, shall we say. They'll be able to get some decent points on the board tonight, and that will mean that this round will potentially count for them. If you get drivers who maybe aren't finishing in the top 10 on a full strength grid, being able to get those sort of 7th, 8th places tonight, that can make all the difference towards the end of the season, because that will mean that already, even when meeting into the season, this could be one of their locked in rounds already.
Yes, and that's a very good point. People can stake an early claim and maybe gain a few more points, a few more valuable championship points compared to, when the big guns do come out. I'm not saying our drivers on track aren't the big guns, but you have got to remember last season's champion Andy McEwen is currently away on real life driving duties. And once again, the AM drivers swap again pole position. Alistair Hatcher now in prime position there for AM class. You got the two AA Tech cars working together at the moment as well. You can see Hatcher there just being second in line, so maybe he's gained another lap of slipstream, another lap of draft. And despite the slipstream effect not being too strong in these cars, Dan, because it's such a high-speed circuit here at Donington Park, it does pull you around through pretty much every part of the lap, apart from maybe between McLean and Coppice. But as we head into the final 90 seconds, time to see if our drivers can do any improvements. Paul Cook has gone into seconds, I've been talking, but it looks like Lee Holmes is in the pit, so he won't be improving before end of session as we're on board with Luke Pullen.
Joe Winter, I saw as well, had a purple sector in Sector 2, but it was only a 111.164, so not an improvement on his current lap time. As we look on board with Luke Pullen now going down the Crane of Curves, and this is a circuit that Luke would have raced in real life as well. It's part of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship as he takes Old Hairpin very nicely there, took up the whole of the apex and then some. Fantastic driving there from Luke Pullen, and this lap currently in the first sector is not an improvement. We do have a green sector though from Wayne Douglas, who is just ahead in the timings of the car there of Luke Pullen, but Luke Pullen gone through McLean's now going up towards Coppice and onto the back straight, and Martin Shirley, our pole position man, currently in the pit, so he won't get another lap in as Pullen goes down the back straight, and I think Pullen may just get another lap in. He's got about 18 seconds to go as he brakes hard down into the Robert chicane. He will get one more lap in, and that second sector for Pullen also not an improvement on a personal best, but he crosses the line now. Barney getting ready to fly that flag But Luke Pullen's last lap time of 1:11.492, so no improvement there for Luke Pullen as Barney gets ready. And there he goes, as enthusiastic as ever, Barney with his checkered flag. And this session has come to a close. Cars, of course, will be able to complete the lap they're on now. Having looked through the timing, though, I don't think there's any drivers currently on an improvement. So maybe had the best of their tyres already in the early part of the session. But even still, just getting some track time, just being able to sort of get through in that is just being able to get the time really good for them in the lead up to the race. But at the moment, in fact, there was a slight improvement from Suarez Fitzpatrick on sector 3 time, but it wasn't enough to bring them up further into onto the actual order. But last few cars, there's Luke Pullen, of course, the last car to take the checkered flag, in just coming down towards complete his final lap. And I believe that Martin Shirley will have pole position and the 2 points, unless there's very late drama here at Donington.
Yes, a lovely shot there of Luke Pullen dancing over the curbs. And yeah, he's not improving. He's pulled into the pit. So I think that does set our field. So we'll be gridding shortly for the feature. But yes, first blood in the championship goes to Martin Shirley with those 2 points. So what a race one we've got to set up for. We've got a Pro-Am at the front of the field. But yeah, the first 6 cars in the Elantra. So showing that the people that have done the homework, have done the research, does seem to be the car of choice. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing what these drivers can offer. And obviously, nice, robust touring cars. I'm sure there'll be some elbows out, especially on lap 1 up into Redgate.
Yeah, well. It wouldn't be touring car racing, would it, Reese, if there wasn't a little bit of contact? But as I say, Martin Shirley taking pole position. And if at the start of the night you'd asked us who was on pole, I don't think we say a Pro-Am driver. We do see it sometimes in the real world as well, where sometimes the Pro-Am drivers can get pole position. But we'll go through the grid very shortly as well, because the race is going to be getting underway in sort of less than 2 minutes time. So on pole position we have Martin Shirley. Alongside him will be Paul Cook. Row 2 will comprise of Joe Winter and Lee Holmes. Third row we have James Neve and Wayne Douglas, with on the 4th row the Veloster of Suarez Fitzpatrick and Luke Pullen in 8th. 9th place will be Ian Manners, with Rob Jackson joining him on the 5th row. Row 6 is Craig McDonald and Alistair Hatcher, our AM pole position. And on the final row, the 7th row, we have Luke Jones, the AM driver in the Audi RS3, and Glenn Humberston. Maybe some question marks on whether if Glenn Humberston will be taking the start of this race, but looking forward to this. The first race of the season, not such big of a field, so be interesting to see what happens when they get down to Redgate Corner. I'm predicting it will be quite orderly for the first race of the season. What are your thoughts, Reese?
I'm not so sure. With these touring cars, they're a little difficult to get off the line. Obviously, they've all got launch control, but they've all got slightly different biting points between the different models. And obviously, being front-wheel drive and having a reasonable amount of power, there's always the opportunity for a lot of wheel spin, or the opposite and bogging on down. So we might get a bit of variance off the line, and that can give us some 2, 3, maybe even 4 wide action potentially going down into Redgate Corner. As we mentioned, touring cars, they're nice and robust. So really excited. I think everyone's just about on the grid. I think we're just waiting on Rob Jackson. Glenn Humberston has made it, so we'll have a 14-car field to start. We should be getting our lights soon, Dan.
Yes, for the first time of 40 this season, we are going to see a race start. And there we go. The lights will be going on to the screen now. Martin Shirley and the rest of the field getting ready to go. Round 1 of the British Sim Racers Touring Cars is going. It's a great start from Paul Cook from the first row. Got a fantastic launch compared to Martin Shirley. And I think as we go down to Redgate for the first time, it will be Paul Cook that has the lead. He's trying to go down the inside of Martin Shirley. All the cars go through Redgate in one piece. And it does look like it is Paul Cook who has taken the lead, with Martin Shirley in second. Joe Winter is in third. Lee Holmes fourth. Suarez Fitzpatrick a loser as well from the start, from 6th down into 8th place, but a rather orderly start. But we did have a change for the lead as the cars go through Old Hairpin for the first time. One of them going off extremely wide there, going through Old Hairpin, gets back on the track. I believe that's Alistair Hatcher. Yes, it is Alistair Hatcher, the AM driver, from the AM pole position, I believe, as well. So Alistair Hatcher has had a problem already, but the rest of the cars seem pretty seemingly single file for the rest of the track, as you see Paul Cook there and Martin Shirley with their teammate Joe Winter. So a top 3 currently for Simtech Racing.
Yes, it looks like formation flying from here. I'm sure Lee Holmes in 4th place will have something to say about and the Soul Douglas Motorsport car of Wayne Douglas as well. But yeah, Lee Holmes racing for AA Tech Racing. Yeah, lovely to see. Great start from Paul Cook, getting the lead ahead of his teammate, ahead of the Pro-Am into turn 1. Very clean. My prediction of potential carnage was wrong. Just as Lee Holmes runs a little bit wide. Shouldn't compromise him too much as we run down the corner curves here. You can see a little bit of a gap has formed there. But yeah, very much formation flying for the free Simtech Racing cars. And yeah, as you can see, Lee Holmes has got Wayne Douglas all over the back end, heading towards the old hairpin. But it's very difficult to make a move there unless you are that much quicker than the cars in front. But we'll see what happens as the race goes. Yeah, Wayne Douglas is 13 minutes ago. Sorry.
He has very good run out. Oh, he sticks down the inside. A little bit of contact there, pushes wide the car of Lee Holmes. With a couple of look, that may have been contact there as well between the year 1 cars getting stuck in as well with Wayne Douglas. That's James Neve, last season's Pro-Am champion. So on the second lap, it's taken for a little bit of contact, but also a point worth making as well that Martin Shelley doesn't actually, if he finishes behind Paul Cook, it doesn't actually make such a big difference because, of course, they're in different classes. With Martin Shirley fighting for Pro-Am honours and Paul Cook even for the pros. There's another one goes rally crossing on the exit of the Robert chicane, gets back onto the track there. So that's another one of our drivers going off the circuit. But all 14 cars currently still running. Fastest lap Paul Cook with a 1:11, shall I say, 0.425. So Paul Cook with the fastest lap of the race, but already it looks like those top 3 pulling away, and there's been a change to 4th position as well. Wayne Douglas has snuck himself up into 4th place with James Neve in 5th and Ian Manners in 6th. The big loser from that, due to the contact they had down into McLean's, of course, is Lee Holmes down into 9th place, but at the front it looks like it is formation flying, as we said, for those Simtech Racing drivers.
Yes, hello, Joe Winter. It's just closing in slightly on Martin Shirley as Paul Cook's trying to stretch his legs. It looks like Lee Holmes had another issue. He's dropped all the way to the back of the field now behind Alistair Hatcher. So not going well for him. Oh, and in fact, it looks like he's just out to the pit. So he's been in the wall at some point there. But I say, and the problem is as well, if he doesn't get back out and he loses more than 1 lap, he's also not eligible for reverse grid pole. So it might really put a spanner in his evening. But as we say, Paul Cook leading the way with Martin Shirley in 2nd and Joe Winter in 3rd. A dominant performance so far from Simtech Racing. And yet we can see that he looks like he got together with James Neve and then just can't get the car slowed down or rotated all in the gravel, and buries it deep in the tyre barrier there at McLean's. And yeah, he has to tow to the pits from there. And that looks like that's his race 1 over.
Yeah, Luke Pullen, I believe it was, in the Noah 12 the contact was with, but as you say, that is a very important point. It's not only the fact that if they're 2 laps down, they're not eligible for the reverse grid, of course. They'll be non-classified as well, so there'll be no points for Lee Holmes if he goes more than a lap down. As we see, that top 3, Paul Cook actually starting to put a bit of distance between himself and Joe Winter. Martin Shirley holding on well in the Pro-Am, and of course the next driver in Pro-Am is Ian Manners in 6th place, so he has actually got quite a lead over the rest of that Pro-Am contingent, and that would be just what he wants to see at the start of the season. Wayne Douglas trying to hold on to the back of them, and he is bringing last season's Pro-Am champion James Neve with him. We're sort of getting little packs throughout the field, and this is what you get in BSR racing. There's sort of drivers of all different abilities. There's always someone to race with, and even in the AM class we only have the 3 runners tonight, but it's a good battle between Alistair Hatcher, Luke Jones and Glenn Humberstone. There's only a 2.5 seconds between the 3 of them.
Yes, and Glenn Humberstone had a great start. Bearing in mind he didn't do any qualifying laps at all. He actually had a blinder of a start. He went from P14, and I think at one point on lap 1 he was shown as P10. So that can go any way at all. But looking at the front, yeah, these Simtech cars are flying in formation. You've now got Winter ahead of Shirley, and then you've got Douglas 1.6 behind Martin Shirley. So maybe we'll see if he can at least break up and not make it a perfect clean sweep of the podium for Simtech here in race 1. Still a long way to go here, though. 9 minutes to go.
Exactly, not even halfway through this first race of the season. Martin Shirley dropping down into 3rd place. Of course, we have the other Veloster. They're running behind the Stern in 6th and 7th. We've got Ian Manners, and we have Swaze Fitzpatrick. Ian Manners, the Pro-Am driver, currently 2nd in the Pro-Am class as he breaks down into the Robert chicane. That's another section in the circuit where you don't get it quite right. You can lose a lot of time, and also quite easy to get a slowdown if you take too much curb. So something that all these drivers have to be very mindful of. But as I say, top 3 are starting to pull away just a little bit from the rest of the field, but throughout the field, cars racing close together. We got Luke Pullen in 8th place. There's a battle we're seeing on screen now. That, in fact, could be the battle. It is a battle in the AM class as Glenn Humberston makes his way past Luke Jones. So Glenn Humberston up into 12th overall and 13th in the AM class. Lee Holmes has now gone 2 laps down, so Lee Holmes will be non-classified, I believe, for this race. It's going to be very hard for him to pull that lap back. So Lee Holmes, a nightmare start to the season on an evening where, with less participation than expected for the rest of the season, could have been a real chance to get some points on the board.
It would have indeed, but he's still got 3 more races tonight, and that's the beauty of having 4 short 15-minute races. They're brutal sprints, they're fantastic action all the way through. But you've got, if you have an issue like Lee Holmes has early in race 1, he's got time to, as me and Jack talked about on Tuesday, go and make himself a brew, dust himself down, and get back at it. But yeah, looking at the screens, so you've got Cook, Winter, Douglas, Neve, and Patrick, your top 5 in Pro. And then you've got Shirley leading from Manners, Pullen, McDonald, and Jackson in Pro-Am, and Hatcher, Humberston, and then Jones in our AM categories as well. Interesting to see there's a 2.5 second gap now, 3 second gap between Hatcher and Humberston. So whether we can make that gap up in AM, I'm not sure. But it looks like Martin Shirley's got Pro-Am wrapped on up. He's actually pulled out a bit more of a gap over Wayne Douglas. Now that gap's 2.2 seconds. So it looks like that podium is in the bag for them, Dan.
It is, and it just shows with Simtech Racing what they're doing. They're utilising the team game perfectly. They've got 3 cars up at the front, and they're helping each other to get the very best position possible. We also saw a few seconds ago as well that great battle between Glenn Humberstone and Luke Jones that was running for second in AM as they came down the back straight towards the Robert chicane. And in fact, it looks like on the early part of this lap, Humberstone's actually been able to pull quite a gap on Luke Jones, I've noticed. As his car off there, that is Rob Jackson. So Rob Jackson going wide at Coppice, across the grass, across the gravel. He will just about see the position, I think, because Glenn Humberstone was quite a distance behind, but he would be putting some pressure on him going into the Robert chicane. He's going to have a look down the inside. Leaves him a lot of space there, Rob Jackson. That is very smart driving. Knew that Humberston maybe had a bit more speed, and he takes that 11th position overall. And more importantly, maybe, puts the car between himself and his class rival, Luke Jones.
Yes, and that also puts him directly behind Alistair Hatcher, 3.5 seconds now. So it'd be a mighty effort if he can catch him from there. But as I say, it does put a car between him and the car in fast. Also, as well, whilst we were looking at that, James Neves made it past Wayne Douglas, and he's already pulled a second gap on it as well. So I'm not sure if Wayne's made a mistake there or not. But yeah, at the end of that lap there, it looks like James Neves did get ahead. He's built a gap. So, but yeah, still the STR cars running line of stern at the front, just less than a second separating all 3. They'll be very pleased with how this first race is going so far.
It looked like a small mistake there for Wayne Douglas at the end of the previous lap. Lost 1.3. Good battle going on behind there for 6th place. We've got Ian Manners and Suarez Fitzpatrick in the Velocitas being put under intense pressure from Luke Pullen in the Year 1 Hyundai Lancia. There they see the 3 of them, and Pullen will be very keen to get past these 2 Velocitas as soon as possible and try and help out James Neve. He's got that battle going on with Wayne Douglas, but Luke Pullen hard on a brace into Reggae. We see there Suarez Fitzpatrick car 512 just ahead of him. As we go down Crane the curves, Old Hairpin can be an overtaking opportunity, but you've got to be extremely brave and extremely precise to make something work. It's downhill. Car can be quite unpredictable, shall I say, on the brace. So he makes it through Old Hairpin under Starkey's Bridge and now makes the run up towards McLean's and Coppice. It's probably one of the closest battles on the track at the moment, this fight for 6th place, and it'll be really interesting to see which way this one ends up.
Yes, a 3 cars line turn, and I love this nose cap. Had it as well on Tuesday, but it's great to see just how the cars gain, how the concertina effect works under the braking down. It's fantastic, and you can see, hopefully we'll get to see how the slipstream effect works as well. Maybe Luke Pullen being able to gain on Fitzpatrick. Ian Manners just starting to inch away a little bit as we cut away, because it looks like the Simtech cars have punched together, and we're back on board now with Luke Pullen on board Tier 1. It looks like it might have been a connection issue actually for Luke Pullen, so hopefully that doesn't affect his race too much more. But yeah, looking, as you can see, gains up slightly into Redgate. He gets a slightly better run through than Fitzpatrick does. as well. So maybe, oh, he's run slightly wide actually, just as we cut away. So that will cost him all of his momentum there. And as we talk about momentum, Rob Jackson and Glenn Humberston are also fighting hard. You can see them swapping and changing positions on the timing screens as well. So action up and down the field. But yeah, still the 3 leaders separated by just under a second.
That nose cam is a fantastic view of just how much Luke Pullen gains on the brakes. He seemed to be a little bit later than Fitzpatrick ahead of him. You can see visibly that gap shrink, but that mistake on the edge and the exit of Reggae, it looked like maybe a wheel on the edge of the grass cost him a little bit of time. It wasn't a massive mistake, but it's one of those which is going to cost him maybe a lap or two's worth of momentum to try and catch up to where he was previously. At the front, it is still as it was, Cook, Winter and Shirley. Battle between James Neve and Wayne Douglas, about a second between those. And then we've got this battle as Fitzpatrick's turn now to get a little bit of grass on the exit of the Robert chicane. And Luke Pullen will be trying to catch up as soon as possible. But at the moment, it looks like all calm for the Simtech Racing drivers. But as we get towards the end of the race, maybe the last couple of laps, it'd be interesting to see if there are team orders. I wouldn't think there'd be team orders, but Paul Cook there maybe one's just a smidgen wide, not enough to cause a loss of momentum, but they are pulling away from Martin Shirley in 3rd place, although he still has a slipstream, so he won't pull massively away from them, but just enough potentially. Maybe in case of an accident, he'll be a bit further behind. But as they go through Coppice for the 11th time, it is Paul Cook who takes the lead, and once they cross the line to start lap number 12, there will be just under 2 minutes left on the clock.
And it's interesting, you mentioned team orders. I know, Dan, from me and you racing together in the Skippy as part of League 1, sometimes calm heads have to prevail. But as well, if nobody's there, if nobody's talking to the drivers in the area and saying, one lad, let's bring it home, sometimes the redness can prevail. So we'll see what's going on in the STR camp over the next couple of laps. But yeah, it looks like 2 laps to go. It's going to be a straight fight between Cook and Winter, and it's less than a quarter of a second. It's less than pretty much a whole car length there. It's under 2 tenths I can see as they come down into the old hairpin. So might very well have a great race on our hands here. We'll see if anyone makes it through what they've played today. And then you've also got Wayne Douglas, who's now on the back of James Newton, and looking on the back of that new 1-2 car towards Douglas Motorsport Hyundai. And he's got the inside into McLean's, yes. And it looks like he's made that move stick, has he?
Oh, what a
yes,
move.
a very clean move there. He's just sent in with a lot of confidence. And yeah, he's got clear, and it looks like he might be able to just pull away enough from James Neve to avoid getting slipstream back pass down into the Robert chicane.
That was a move which shows all the experience that Wayne Douglas has, both in real life and in the sim. It was a decisive move. It was a clean move, no contact made, but Wayne Douglas made those intentions very clear. This is what I'm going to do. James Neve gave him the space, and the cars now will be starting their final lap here at the Donington Park circuit. We have less than 30 seconds to go, so any battles need to be decided in the next 1.95 miles of Donington Park. Also, that battle for 6th place is closed up as well between Manners, Fitzpatrick and Pullen. They are nose to tail going through Redgate. We don't know where to look at the moment. Graham's going to have his work cut out, but Paul Cook and the car Joe Winter, his teammate, in 2nd place. No change to them as they go through Old Hairpin and up towards McLean's for the final time. That's not quite close enough to make a move. I don't think it's so much the case he's not close enough. As we said earlier, I think it's just that he knows that it's his teammate and he's not going to make that move. I can imagine if that wasn't his teammate in front of him, he would make a move, but he's not going to do so as they go down the back straight for the final time. And it looks like it is going to be Paul Cook who is on the way to victory here. They break down to the Robert chicane for the last time. Just has to get the Robert chicane right, which he does so. It's a run to the flag, and round 1 of 40 goes to Paul Cook. But it is a very impressive 1-2-3 for Simtech with the car Joe Winter 2nd. Martin Shirley takes a Pro-Am victory in 3rd place. James Neve's in 4th. What's happened to Wayne Douglas? There's been drama on the final lap. We have lost Wayne Douglas. It's going to be Fitzpatrick 5th. Luke Pullen takes 6th. He got past Ian Manners on the final lap. He'll be 7th. Craig McDonald crosses in 8th. And Wayne Douglas, I'm not sure, he's very slow. Will he take 9th? He may take... No, he's not. He's going to lose it. He's going to lose it on the line to Alistair Hatcher. Could be fuel, potentially. We'll have to see what's happened there. But Wayne Douglas has lost a lot of time on the final lap. Alistair Hatcher will they take the Am win in 9th place? Wayne Douglas 10th. Rob Jackson is 11th with Glenn Hubberson 12th. And Luke Jones in 13th place as well. So that is a very exciting end to the race. Lots of position switches. And that just shows that even on the final lap, there is always something to watch out for in the BSR touring cars.
Yes, what fantastic action. You've got the leaders playing it safe. I was begging Joe to get brave, forget his team duties and give it a send. But no, a very strong performance from Simtech Racing there on the final lap. James Home bringing it home for year one. And then Fitzpatrick in P5, Pullen in P6, overtaking Ian Manners on the final lap. And then you got Craig McDonald, Hatcher, Douglas with his fuel. I'm assuming it was fuel. He was so slow crawling across the line. You don't know if it was fuel or maybe a slowdown. But yeah, looks like some form of technical issue there for him, costing him dear. But that being said, it may have cost him dear. But in a moment's time, we'll be doing the Wheel of Fortune and finding out who gets the reverse grid pole. So we'll see if Wayne Douglas might, despite being unlucky in race 1, will that turn around for him in race 2.
That is the beauty of the reverse grid draw, and as you see, we will have the wheel up very shortly. There are a few talking points as well to go through from round 1 of the championship, but I believe we want to have the reverse grid draw very shortly. There we see the spinning Wheel of Fortune, where BSR, something that's been in BSR for a long time, and we see now the wheel has been spun, and it looks like it is going to be 8th place that will get the reverse grid. We will have that confirmed now. It is 8th place, so that means we'll have Craig McDonald on pole position for race 2 with Ian Manners alongside him on the front row, Luke Pullen and Swaze Fitzpatrick on row 2, with James Neve, Martin Shirley, Joe Winter and race 1 winner Paul Cook in 8th place. One of the talking points I think from that race was the demise of Lee Holmes. He had a couple bits of contact in that race, of course, which saw him first lose out a few places and then ended his race prematurely there. And he'll be hoping that race 2 is a lot better, but really not the way that you'll want to start a championship season.
No, not at all. But it is a long championship. We're 1/40th of the championship down. We're race 1 out of 40 done. There's 39 races to go, and he has to remember it's such a long championship here in the BSR. So one race doesn't define a championship. Unfortunately for Simtech Racing, because they absolutely bossed it from flag to flag. A little bit of synchronised flying, perhaps. The pro-am of Martin Shirley, despite taking pole, he got beat down into T1 by Paul Cook, and then he lost out about halfway through the race, just there as well. So he dropped back to P3. A very strong showing for him in pro-am, and I say the 1-2 there for Simtech in the pro class as well done.
Yeah, it was a very, very good start to the race, and Martin Shirley lost out on the start. The initial launch not quite as good as his teammates around him. And I think that really was what sort of put him on the back foot. It was Joe Winter who got the launch and managed to get through on the way into Redgate. But that AM battle as well, worth watching as well. Despite the fact there's only 3 in class, we just see a good battle between Luke Jones and Glenn Humberstone over that course of that race. Humberstone taking 2nd and 3rd in that class with Alistair Hatcher, the runaway winner. But Alistair Hatcher, of course, had a good season in AM last season. He was 2nd in the championship, 9 victories in the class. Already has his first of the season. Surely, even at this early stage of the season, Hatcher may be one of the men to look out for in the championship. But we are going to look at the full results from round 1 of the championship at Donington Park on the national circuit. It's Paul Cook who takes victory from teammates Joe Winter and Martin Shirley, finishing 2nd and 3rd. Shirley taking the pro-am victory. James Neve was 4th for year 1, with Swaze Fitzpatrick in 5th place in the Veloster. 6th place was Luke Pullen, with Ian Manners in the 2nd Veloster in 7th place. Craig McDonald 8th, and in 9th place and taking the AM victory was Alistair Hatcher. Wayne Douglas, problems on the final lap, dropping him down into 10th place, but it was a finish, at least for Wayne Douglas there. Outside of the top 10, 11th was Rob Jackson. We saw him going wide up at Coppice. Glenn Humberstone was 2nd in AM, 12th overall. Luke Jones was 13th, 3rd in AM. And non-classified was Lee Holmes. As I said, not the ideal start to his season, but he's got 39 races to make amends to that. And I'm sure over the course of a longer season, there'll be twists and turns and ups and downs for all of our drivers at some point. But following on from that first race, it will be interesting to see how quickly it takes for the drivers from the Simtech team to get back up the field again. The highest one of those starting in 6th place will be Martin Shirley, with Joe Winter 7th and Paul Cook 8th. But interesting to see that the Veloster as well in the top 5. But we'll be back for more action very shortly here on Year 1 TV with round 2 of the championship from Donington Park. Good evening and welcome back to Year 1 TV. We are live at Donington Park for rounds 1 to 4 of the BSR TCR Championship, the BSR Touring Cars. An interesting first race there. Something else I was just about to pick on before we went for the break was the Veloster of the Suarez Fitzpatrick finishing in the top 5 in that race. And interesting to see that the Veloster getting into the top 5 there. So interesting to see if that's a theme that can continue through the night, being a few Delantras along the way.
Yeah, it looks like still Korean dominance, but different models of Hyundai. And I just want to take this opportunity as well, just whilst we was on our short break, topping up on fluids for myself as well. I've noticed as well, obviously, we've got a few faces in the YouTube chat. So hello, everybody there. Hello, Stefan, cheering on Year 1 tonight. Hi to Ben. Craig cheering on 88 Tech as well. Mike Bingo enjoying the paint scheme on the 512. And Snicky giving Luke Cullen a shout out as well, making some Jolyon Palmer references as well. So yeah, shout out guys, do say hello in the chat, and also as well take the opportunity. Obviously, we're Year 1 TV, we're back broadcasting. We broadcast the MX5s on a Tuesday night, as well as also broadcasting the TCRs, myself and Dan, on a Thursday. So please do give us a like and give us a subscribe on YouTube. And as I say, come and cheer us on in, say, for this 10-round series. So the cars are getting ready now for race 2. There's just a couple of minutes of their warm-up left. Lee Holmes has dusted himself off and is back in the session as well. But excitingly too, we've actually got 15 entrants for this race as well. Kip Stevens has joined us. So he's missed race 1, but he's made it back in for race 2. So we're up to 15 cars. Although, unsurprisingly, Kip has now joined us in a Hyundai Elantra, so yet another Elantra in there for now. But yeah, just over 3 minutes to go until race 2 kicks off. Dan, what are you looking forward to the most?
I was just about to bring up actually Kip Stevens, a real stalwart of the BSR TC, actually raced in that first meeting in 2013. So Kip Stevens, someone who's been involved in, as I say, in BSR for a very long time, a character, as we all know Kip Stevens is, and be interesting to see how he gets on in this race, seeing him in the racing in the Elantra. But as I say, the interesting one of the interesting elements will be to see how the guys from Simtech are able to go through the field. Of course, they're starting the highest one in 6th place, which is Martin Shirley, and some quite quick drivers in front of them. Of course, there's the likes of Luke Pullen, he'll be up there near the front. We've got James Neve as well, the Pro-Am champions we said from last season. So some drivers who will not make it easy for those Simtech drivers to go through the field. And also, another one maybe to keep an eye on is to see the progress of Wayne Douglas from 10th on the grid.
Yes, it's a bit more of a mixed up grid, and that's what we love about these reverse grids, is they tend to jumble up the grid, and as the night goes on for race 2, race 3 and race 4, it all gets mixed up. Race 1 tends to be the one where people get to qualify, they get to start where they are on pure pace, and then the field just kind of settles into that rhythm from there. You've also got, as I say, you've got Lee Holmes back in. Hopefully he's dusted himself off, he's cleared his head. He'll be starting P14. He'll only have Kip Stevens behind him. He'll be wanting to make some progress and make up for some lost time from race 1. And Kip, I'm not sure how much practice he's done before he's come in this evening, but he's not got the experience of race 1 under his belt, but seasoned stalwart, the legend that he is, as I say, he's been well known across the BSR community now for, pretty much since its inception 9 years ago. So I'm sure ring rustiness won't affect him at all, Dan.
No, it's never a dull moment when Kip Stevens is around. That's something I've learned over sort of the last near decade of enjoying races and moments of Kip Stevens. And as I say, it's good to see someone who has stuck to the championship for that long. One of the sort of the cornerstones of the British sim races is Kip Stevens, and a decade in anything is a big commitment, especially in sim racing. So great to see Kip still on the grid and enjoying his racing there as well. And as you say, a mixed up grid as well for our second race, so that could bring up some surprises. Drivers maybe not where they're expecting to be, but the Pro-Am also, something else I was going to mention as well, we had, of course, Martin Shirley taking the Pro-Am win, but also some extra bonus points as well for some of the other drivers as well. We had 2 points for the fastest lap going the way of Joe Winter, and any driver who leads an overall lap as well in the championship gets 2 extra points as well, just for leading a lap. So the incentives for leading laps, getting your fastest laps, are very high. Those points definitely mount up towards the end of the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, those bonus points will make a difference. And as I say, we're just about to start gridding up. So, Dan, why don't you take us through the grid as we start race 2 here in the BSR TCR series?
Yeah, so we are just about to get underway. The practice session just finishing for the drivers. And on pole position for our second race of the evening is going to be Craig McDonald and Ian Manners alongside him. On the second row, it's Luke Pullen and Suarez Fitzpatrick. James Neve and Martin Shirley on row 3. 7th will be Joe Winter with Paul Cook in 8th place. It's interesting to see, as we say, how far those leading 3 from the first race can get through. Rounding out the top 10 is Alistair Hatcher, the AM winner from race 1, and Wayne Douglas in 10th. 11th is Rob Jackson, McGlenn Humberstone in 12th. Row 7 sees Luke Jones and Lee Holmes, and on the 8th row on his own is Kip Stevens. But we know Kip, a very established member of the BSR, and it'd be interesting to see just how far he can come up the field. We've got 15 minutes of intense race, and I think this one may ramp up the intensity just a little bit more than what we saw in the first race. The first race was the outright pace, but as we see here, we are getting ready. The cars on the grid, and it is Craig McDonald. We've got the Veloster of Ian Manners alongside him. Then we have the Elantra and another Veloster on the second row. So here we go then. For the second time this season, the lights are on. Very shortly they will be out, and it's a very good start for McDonald's off the front row. Manners is going to go past him. Pullen is going to go through, and also I think James Neves as well. So Craig McDonald, an absolute nightmare of a start, falling down the field like a stone at the moment, down into 7th place. But as they go through Redgate for the first time, on the grass goes Ian Manners, and that's going to put Luke Pullen into the lead. Also saw Wayne Douglas going wide as well at Redgate, but it is the year 1 driver of Pullen who has lead. Ian Manners second, James Neves third, but Joe Winter already up to 4th, looking to make the move into the old hairpin for 3rd place. Is he going to make it stick? Yes, he does. So Joe Winter up into 3rd place. What a start from Joe Winter there. Put himself up into 3rd place. Craig McDonald has got himself up to 5th, but what a nightmare start there, Reece, for our pole position, man.
Oh, absolutely. And as I say, there might be some variance at the starts, and there definitely was, as you've got an 8.8 tech car just into the gravel there in the background in McLean's. He'll keep that going. But yes, as I say, what a jumbled up start. As I say, a lot of variance, a lot of wheel spin there from McDonald. He'll be picking himself. But yeah, you've got Luke Pullen leading the field, leading the Pro-Am class as well. But he's got Ian Manners just behind him, so that'll be hard fought. And then, yeah, what a start from Joe Winter. Not only has he made it up to P3 from his starting position, actually as well, he's put a few cars between himself, Shirley and Cook. Cook's had a bit of a nightmare. Our race 1 winner is all the way down to 8th place now. He's just side by side with Alistair Thatcher, so he potentially get that move done. He's just on the outside. As they come out of Redgate, we've got a fantastic onboard view here from Lee Holmes. He's got the inside as they sweep on into this left-hander in the crane of curves. Can he get cleared before the old hairpin, or are they going to go too wide? Looks like they're going to go too wide. Alistair Hatcher doesn't care. Just backs out, but Cook's gone wide. He's on the gravel. He's got to be careful how he rejoins as they go under the bridge, under Starkey's bridge, up the hill towards McLean's. And it's Lee Holmes sweeping past 1, sweeping past 2, making up for his bad luck in race 1. He's on the inside for McLean's. Let's say, you've got Cook holding on around the outside. You've got an 880 tech car, again off from the gravel on lap 2. Not the first time I've said that in race 2 so far. So that's 2 of them through the gravel now. You've got Glenn Humberstone there, back there in 12th position. We have lost a car already, it looks like. We've only got 14 entrants. Yeah, Pullen's leading the way. Joe Winter's managed to get up to P2. And James Neve following through to P3. Ian Manners dropped down to P4 on this lap 2. And you can see Luke Pullen. Is he defending? No, he's left the inside open, and Joe Winter's going to squeeze on through into lead into Redgate corner. And say, what a fantastic lap we've had. And Winter gets fastest lap of the race as well. He's going to be looking to sprint away from the field now, Dan.
A dream start there for Joe Winter, and you say Luke Pullen made it. He didn't make it very difficult for him, but I think, again, it's a tactics game. Pullen is in a different class to Winter. He wants to win overall. But Joe Winter, obviously, clearly, in the first race, was the faster driver. And what Luke Pullen will be hoping is that he's able to stick behind the car of Joe Winter and be able to drag along to pull away from his teammate James Neve and the pack behind. Ian Manners fourth. The car that did not start the race, I believe, Rob Jackson, is the driver that didn't make the start. I think there's only 14 that made the grid, unfortunately. So a non-start for Rob Jackson. But we have Joe Winter and Luke Pullen at the front too. And there's a battle going on behind between Martin Shirley and Craig McDonald. For 5th place I saw there. Yeah, it is. It's McDonald on the defensive against Martin Shirley, with the car Suazo Passaggi just behind. No move made there, but a poor exit from Roberts. He's going to clip up some grass there. Yeah, clips the grass. And that is the only invitation that Martin Shirley needs. He's going to be on the outside line, but he is going to have the extra momentum. There's a car there with connection problems behind. That's the Veloster Fitzpatrick. But later on, the brakes around the outside. Will they just about avoid contact? They do. That was a rather easy move there from Martin Shirley. Puts him up into 5th place overall and into 3rd in Pro-Am.
Yes, some frenetic action here. You've got 6 cars, line astern through there, and it looks like, the STR car there will be trying to get through them, and then you've got Shirley will be trying to get ahead there as well. So mixed fortunes for our race 1 podium. Oh, it's just contact into McLean's. It looks like an 88 Tech car's gone around, and Paul Cook's involved. In fact, both 88 Tech cars have gone around there, so a disaster there for them. Glenn Humberston coming through.
Ollie Holmes again.
Jones coming through as well, and then Stevens at the back as well. So they're all coming on through, and Lee Holmes is having an absolute shocker. He's had an instant in race 1 McLean's, he's had an instant in race 2 McLean's as well. He'll just be hoping that we can get some Brands action. Nobody talks about McLean's ever again. But here we go, that really does break up and jumble up the order. But you've still got Manners in 4th, Shirley in 5th, Patrick in 6th. Terrible look there. The STR car of Paul Cook.
I think it was Fitzpatrick on the contact. Yeah, there's the replay. It was Fitzpatrick going into the side of Craig McDonald there, which caused the contact, and a lot of cars affected by that. And of course, in the British sim races, there are stewards and a stewarding panel, so I'm sure that is one they'll be wanting to take a look at there, as Fitzpatrick causing a little bit of carnage. Just a third of the field involved in that accident. But at the front of the field, it is Joe Winter leading from Luke Pullen in 2nd place, with James Neve, his year 1 teammate, in 3rd, and Pullen not doing a bad job there. His last lap was a 1:11.694. It's quicker than Neve behind him. He was, though, about 4/10 slower than Joe Winter, probably just about hanging on to that slipstream at the moment. But those top 3 or 4 cars are broken away from the front of the field, like we saw in the first race.
Yes, a few gaps emerging. So the closest gap on track at the moment is actually Paul Cook, who's just made it past Alistair Hatchett for P8. I think Fitzpatrick's having a few connection difficulties in P6, with Wayne Douglas in behind, just shy of a second behind, just there as well. And you've got Kip Stevens now breathing down on Alistair Thatcher too. So some battles in the midfield, but yeah, the field's starting to stretch out, obviously, with the contacts and the spins. It's really made quite a spread out field, so interesting to see who's got just pure pace to be able to catch up to the car in front of them, who's got damage from those early skirmishes as well. You know, Paul Cook going inside of that 88 Tech car, has he got any damage? You know, is it costing him from an aerodynamics perspective? He's a full 7 seconds now behind Wayne Douglas in P7, so maybe he won't be able to catch that with that 8 minutes remaining. That'll be a second a minute. He really needs to have the bit between his teeth for that one. Has Wayne Douglas put enough fuel in his car for the race too, though? That'll be a question that might be at the back of his mind. Hopefully he's splashed a few litres on in there, and you've got quite a big gap now. So you've got 3.3 seconds from Winter to Pullen, and then you've got Pullen's teammate James Neve just 4 tenths behind him. So we will have a year 1 battle for P2 shortly coming up, I believe.
Not the first time in the history of year 1 we've had teammates battling near the front of the field, of course. And as we see here, we have Luke Pullen and James Neve fighting for 2nd place. Luke Pullen, a bit of a slower lap, I think, that time compared to 13.5 there for Pullen, so maybe a mistake. Neve was a 1.5 seconds quicker. Or what I was going to allude to was, you say, that incident has actually split the pack up quite a bit, because Wayne Douglas, as you say, 7 seconds ahead of Paul Cook in 8th place. So that is going to be a pretty much insurmountable gap, I would say, unless Wayne Douglas hits some severe problems. Speaking of severe problems there, Luke Pullen having a connection problem, that's the last thing that James Neve will want to see. I know probably yourself and myself, both of us from racing on the service as well, that is the worst thing you can have, is a car blinking directly in front of you, because you just don't quite know where that car's going to end up.
It takes some confidence away. It costs you your rhythm. Just because you're not sure where they are, you start to second guess braking points. you start to second guess apexes and turning in points as well. So yeah, it can be quite disconcerting having that. You've got Shirley, who's now made his way up into 4th place with Manners in P5 now. But I don't think either of them will be able to catch Luke Pullen for the Pro-Am class win. So quite a big gap there. But who's going to take overall 2nd place? Those Year 1 cars are glued together. What a fantastic shot we've got down the Wheatcroft Straight, heading towards Redgrave there. Looking at Barney, overseeing the proceedings as he always does from his perch. As the field blows on by, but you can see those gaps, but you can see a few cars starting to bunch back up together. So they've given us a moment to catch our breath. We'll have some more wheel-to-wheel action coming right up as we're looking at those Year 1 cars now.
That's what we turn up on a Thursday night for, to be entertained, and these drivers doing a fantastic job as ever. And that battle as well, we saw there's a battle for the different positions in the classes. As we see a Pro-Am currently being led by Luke Pullen, with Martin Shirley 2nd and Ian Manners 3rd. As far as AM goes, it looks like Alistair Hatcher on course potentially for a 2nd AM victory. He's got Glenn Humberston and Luke Jones behind him in 3rd. Another thing I was going to say was, even with that incident we had earlier, no cars having to report back to the pits for repairs. So good to see that everyone was able to carry on, although delayed. Although, speaking of delayed, Luke Pullen with a wheel on the grass, and that is the only thing that James Neave would want to see in order to make a move. He's going to have the momentum going down towards Redgate Corner. We have just over 5 minutes to go. Change to 2nd place though. Neave later on the brakes, and again, one of those moves that Pullen didn't make especially hard for his teammate James Neave, but Neave up into 2nd place. As far as the Pro-Am goes, Shirley, it's similar time there, pretty much the exact 1,000th to Luke Pullen there, so he's not catching up at any rate of knots, but he will also have the slipstream from his teammate there to be able to help him pull away. But James Neave up into 2nd place, Luke Pullen 3rd. There's also quite a nice battle that's sort of settled down a bit now. Martin Shirley pulling away from Ian Manners and Swazi Fitzpatrick. Wayne Douglas has lost some time somewhere as well. He's now only a second, not even that, about 0.3 of a second ahead of Paul Cook. That may be an interesting one. There we see in the background going through McLean's. That was the battle there for that. So an instant or a mistake, shall I say, somewhere for Wayne Douglas has allowed Paul Cook to catch up. And we saw Paul Cook, the speed he had in the first race, taking the victory. This could be another place for Paul Cook on his fight back through the field.
Of course, and we saw Neave and Pullen swap place into turn 1 on the last lap. They've remembered the golden rule of motorsport, and that's don't hit your teammate. That's not a problem Douglas and Cook are going to have, though. Being on opposing teams, there's no issues with friendly fire here at all. So hopefully we'll get some impressive wheel-to-wheel action. And right, no cars dropped out even after that midfield contact there. It just goes to show how tough touring cars are built. They're almost designed for contact. Bumpers are meant to be used for bumping. A little bit different to some of the open wheelie cars on the service and the Mazdas as well. But yeah, look how aggressive Cook is. You can see he's itching to get by, desperate to get by Wayne Douglas there. And again, you know, we've got the reverse grid to play for. So it's that one. Do you be aggressive in this race to make moves, or do you sit tight and wait and see? You know, the smallest number for a reverse grid is P8. So Lee Holmes must be looking at this thinking, if I can get a freebie here, I might even get reverse grid pole for the next race.
Lee Holmes was actually quicker than Cook and Douglas on the last lap, only by 1/10 of a second. But if they're going to fight each other, that will allow Lee Holmes to be able to catch up to the two in front of him. Lee Holmes, of course, in the 88 Tech car, another car which is not a teammate of either of these two drivers, of course. Douglas Motorsport, a single car team for Wayne Douglas, and we also know that the race 1 winner, Paul Cook, driving for Simtech, but his teammates far up the road at the moment. Lee Holmes last time was again 0.3 quicker, so they may need to keep an eye on their rearview mirror because he is rapidly approaching. But something else that's rapidly approaching is a checkered flag. We've only got 2.5 minutes to go in this race, and at the moment, looks like our podium is pretty much sealed up. We've got Winter now nearly 5 seconds clear of James Neave. James Neave has Luke Pullen behind him, and then you have Ian Manners in 5th place, and Martin Shirley, shall say, in 4th place. Martin Shirley a couple of tenths quicker than Pullen and Neave, but I don't think he's quite going to have enough time to catch them. That is 2.5 seconds to go, and I believe when we cross the line this time, there will be 2 laps to go. Yeah, it's going to be about that. Other than that, there's another battle actually raging for 10th place between Alistair Hatcher and Kip Stevens. They're about half a second apart, so a bit further down the order, but our AM leader at the moment, Hatcher, does have the BSR stalwart, as we say, Kip Stevens just behind him. We see that in the background as we look at the Veloster of Ian Manners in 5th place. And once again, the Veloster putting in a creditable performance in this race.
Yeah, showing that there's plenty of worthy options when it comes to car choice. You don't have to choose the Elantra. Hopefully we'll get a few more cars here next week. Some people will turn off holidays. Obviously you've got the British Grand Prix this weekend as well, so maybe a few people are camping out for that at the moment as well. Say enjoying the real life racing, and say obviously being in the summer months as well, maybe a few holidays too. Actually looks like Luke Pullen's just past James Neve. I can see it on my timing screens. So it turns out the Year 1 boys putting on a bit of a show there for the final podium place. You've got the Grello Nerble machine there, head of the 1TV machine. And yeah, you can see that they've not settled down at all. And they have got Martin Shirley not too far back, so they can't fight too hard. But it looks like the gloves are off in Year 1. And you've got Douglas still holding Cook off as well. So plenty of drama just as we start the final lap now. Joe Winter seems to have this settled up. He's got 5.5 second lead. Yeah, who's going to be joining him and in what order on the podium here?
Yeah, Joe Winter is definitely on the way to taking a second victory at night for Simtech, and it's going to cap off a good start to the season for Joe Winter. He took a second place in race 1, and it looks like, unless there's a massive curse of the commentator, that he is going to take victory in the second race. As we see there, Luke Pullen overtaking James Neve on the last lap, put himself up into second place. Got Martin Shirley 4th, Ian Manners 5th, and Shirley and Manners also actually both Pro-Am racers as well, so that is a battle for the Pro-Am second place. But to say last lap now for Joe Winter as he heads up to Coppice. It's been a pretty much perfect drive for Joe Winter. Had a fantastic first lap from starting in 7th place to put him up into podium places around 2nd, 3rd place. It was a really good start, and that has been the springboard for what we've seen in the rest of the race as he breaks now for the final time into the Robert chicane down the Wheatcoff straight, and there we go. Perfection once again for Joe Winter. He slows down, he's going to flash the lights and take victory. Joe Winter, it is good battle for second place. I think it is just going to be Luke Pullen taking his first podium. It will be James Neve in 3rd, and it got Ian Manners and Martin Shirley 4th, Ian Manners 5th. Suarez Fitzpatrick in 6th. That battle for 7th has gone the way of Wayne Douglas, but only just. Paul Cook putting him under close attention, and Lee Holmes not far behind as well. And we're now just waiting for our AM winner, Alistair Hatcher, to come around the final corner. Lights ablaze, he goes. Second AM win for the car of Alistair Hatcher. Craig McDonald's gone past Kip Stevens, I believe, on the final lap as well. Kip Stevens with a very slow last lap. And then our final 2 cars to take the flag are going to be Luke Jones and Glenn Humberstone. But once again, at the front of the field, it has been a bit of a Simtech domination.
Yes, they've done very well. But as I say, Paul Cook, he'll be kicking himself. He won race 1. He started P8 in race 2. And that's where he finished it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't as clean cut as that at all. There was plenty of action for him there. But obviously, that big contact in McLean's halfway through the race, that wasn't his fault. Fitzpatrick kicked it off, hitting the 88 car. And yeah, I say, unfortunately for Paul Cook, has cost him big time in those race 2 results. But I say, we'll have the Wheel of Fortune shortly. And again, we'll see who gets to start where. And Glenn Humberston being the last classified finisher, he'll be hoping for a full reverse grid. And yeah, Kip Stevens too as well, being the pro in P12. I'm sure he'll be looking, thinking, I can maybe get a win. But a person that won't want to see a big number when it comes to the reverse grid, it'll be Joe Winter. And what a start he had done.
As we are about to see the podium come up for race 2 of the championship. Here we go. In the first place, Joe Winter. Second for year 1 is Luke Pullen and James Neve in 3rd place as well for year 1. So 2 year 1 cars on the podium, 1 for team year 1 and the OTV entry of Luke Pullen as well. So that is the podium. And we're now going to go through a rundown of the results. It is Joe Winter who takes victory, as we say, by just under 5.5 seconds on Luke Pullen. You had a great battle with James Neve, his year 1 teammate, who finishes 3rd. Martin Shirley finishes in 4th place and takes 2nd in Pro-Am, with Ian Manners 5th overall, rounding out that Pro-Am podium. Swasey Fitzpatrick in 6th place. Saw the contact earlier in the race. That will probably be looked at with Wayne Douglas in 7th place after a fine battle towards the end of the race of Paul Cook, who finished just behind in 8th. Lee Holmes, following the issues in the first race, didn't have a trouble-free run in race 2, but was able to finish in 9th. And the AM winner for the second race in a row, Alistair Hatcher. And just outside the top 10 in 11th place was Craig McDonald. We saw him getting caught up in the incident earlier in the race. Kip Stevens in 12th, 13th, and second in AM is Luke Jones, and Glenn Humberstone is 14th and third in AM. That position changed late in the race as well. And unfortunately, a non-start for Rob Jackson. Hoping whatever problems he had in the first race will be fixed, and we'll be able to see him out with the rest of the drivers in race 3.
Yes, halfway through this evening's proceedings already, Dan. 2 in the books, 2 to go. We've had 2 Simtech Racing wins already. And I think we're going to see how the evening's going to continue. Because I think we've got the Wheel of Fortune coming right up to choose who's going to be on race 3 pole.
Rumour has it, Graham Sessard really
away.
enjoys this section. Here we go then. That's going to shake things up, isn't it, Reese? We have a full reverse. So that will put Glenn Humberston on pole position and Joe Winter starting in 14th place. Also, not the best of reverse grid doors. So Paul Cook either finds himself starting exactly pretty much where he started the second race, in the middle of the pack again. So that will be an interesting. Drivers who maybe finished Lee Holmes, Paul Cook, Wayne Douglas, they're drivers sort of in the middle of the pack that may be able to get up to the front very quickly. We did see then that second race with Joe Winter. If you start in the middle of the pack and you can get a good start and get the positions on the first lap, it really can help you for the rest of the race. And as I say, that start from Joe Winter on lap 1, fantastic, because able to make 6-7 places up, and that really, as I say, was a springboard to victory there.
It was such a decisive start from him. He's got to be pleased. He's got to be happy with that as well. You've got to think now, Paul Cook, yes, you know what, he's still middle of the field. But you've got to think he's had such great pace in like one of those Simtech Racing cars, had such fantastic speed, that you've got to think he'll be looking forward and he'll be thinking, well, I can definitely overtake these cars throughout the course of a race. He just doesn't want to get held up. He doesn't want to get caught up in any instance. And he's in that danger zone. He's in that smack bang in the middle of the pack. He's got Wayne Douglas, who held him off very well at the end of race 2, starting alongside him. And it's also got Lee Holmes ahead of him as well. So all to play for as we head into race 3.
Good evening and welcome back to Donington Park. We've had 2 races. We're halfway through the night, but you know what that means. We've still got 2 more races left. Half the fun is still to go. We have a reverse grid race, the first one of the season for round 3. Also, worth noting from that second race as well, Reese, that in the battle for Am, a second win as well in that one for Alistair Hatcher, meaning he's the only driver actually across all 3 classes to have won his class in each of the first 2 races.
He is indeed, and I'm sure he'll be super happy about that. But as I say, as we were gearing on up for race 3, there's still plenty of stories, plenty of action to unfold. It looks like Rob Jackson's joined back in as well, so hopefully what issues he's had are going to get fixed too. And yeah, Snicky's still bigging up Luke Bullen, who obviously won the Pro-Am class in race 3 as well.
And as I say, a reverse grid draw, what that will do, of course, is it will shake the field up even more. We said before, the second race was a shake-up. This is a complete shake-up, and I think this is the one of the races where your recipe for potential TCR body panel damage could happen. Also worth noting as well that the TCR is one of the cars of the new damage model as well, so if there is going to be a bit of a kerfuffle, we may see some Dragon body parts and iRacing's new damage model utilised into full effect.
Yeah, hopefully will. Not maybe for the sake of the drivers involved. I did take the TCR out for a few quick laps earlier on. I say quick laps, they're actually very slow compared to what our drivers are achieving tonight. I binned it in McLean's on my 3rd lap. And I noticed as well that even the wing mirrors can be knocked off, and it was flapping around in the breeze. So yeah, the new damage model looking visually very, very good. So yeah, looking forward to hopefully not seeing too much damage model involved, but yeah, showcase some of what iRacing has been putting in behind the scenes here, especially into season 3, Dan.
And of course, iRacing always bringing new improvements, and we've had some new cars, obviously the Veloster and the Honda Civic Type R cars that have been recently added alongside, of course, the Elantra and the Audi RS3, the stalwart of the TCR class in iRacing, and more circuits coming as well in the future that we could potentially see the BSR TC racing at, including a trip across the channel, of course, the Circuit Magny-Cours, a former Formula 1 venue. That's coming to the service potentially before the end of the year. So a trip across the channel potentially in the future, and it's always good to see iRacing expanding their catalogue of tracks. So hopefully Cadwell Park one day, that'd be good.
Yes, no, that catalogue of circuits is just expanding time and time again. This season we've had Fuji released, as you mentioned, hopefully Magny-Cours by end of the season as well. And they usually like to drop in a surprise track along the way. Maybe it's time for Paul Ricard. I know, obviously, whilst they're over in France scanning a circuit, hopefully we can get another one as well. I'm not sure we can do circuit requests on here. But if iRacing listening, yeah, we want Paul Ricard, and we also want the Valencia circuit as well. If you'd like to email me, and I'll give you a full list of suggestions there. But we're now getting just into the final minute of warm-up of practice. And you know what? Familiar faces on the timesheets, even in the warm-up session. You've got Joe Winter, Paul Cook, and Martin Shirley for Simtech Racing, all leading the way. And then it's very, very tight behind, even in practice. But as I say, 30 seconds to go, Dan. Who's your pick? So reverse grid, who do you think's going to win race 3?
It's a tough one. There's lots of drivers at the front who could potentially win this one, but I think I'm going to go with Paul Cook. As I say, he's starting in the middle of the pack. He's a bit further up than the rest of his teammates. He won the first race, although didn't have much challenge from his teammates, but I think that Paul Cook is potentially the favourite for this one. Hopefully, it'd be good to see Wayne Douglas have a good run out as well. I think maybe Wayne Douglas for a podium. What are your thoughts on this one then, Reese, as we get ready to get the grid underway?
I'd like to see the Simtech dominance ended so far, mix it up with a few new winners. So I'm picking Wayne Douglas for this one. He's P5 in practice, just as we're starting to grid on up. So, yeah, he's my pick. I think he'll come on through. He held Paul Cook off in the last race. So really looking forward to it just now. But here we are, they're gridding up. So, Dan, why don't you take us through it?
Thank you very much, Reese. So Glenn Humberston on pole position with Luke Jones alongside him. We have Kip Stevens third. That could be another potential shoe-in for a victory. Craig McDonald fourth. Alistair Hatcher and Lee Holmes on row 3. We have Paul Cook and Wayne Douglas. That's a row 4 to keep an eye out as well. Swazi Fitzpatrick 9th, Ian Manners 10th, we have Martin Shirley 11th and James Neve 12th. 13th is Luke Pullen with alongside him race 2 winner Joe Winter, and at the back of the field hopefully for this one will be Rob Jackson with the issues he had in the second race resolved, and have a full complement of 15 cars still waiting for just one more car to get onto the grid. It is now on the grid, so for the third time this season we're going to get ready for action here. It's TCR at Donington Park, lights out here at Donington. A bit of wheel spin there from Luke Jones on the front row, and Kip Stevens has made a pretty decent start. Also, Paul Cook is looking to get down the inside, 4 wide and potentially in towards Redgate. He thinks better of it, but Paul Cook will get himself up into 5th place. Luke Jones, a bit of contact there with Swazi Fitzpatrick, a bit of door banging. Luke Jones, a big loser from that first lap. Has cut off as well. It's Joe Winter. I think that's Joe Winter, you know, it is Joe Winter and Luke Pullen, 2 of the favourites for this race. They're starting further back down the field. It's first and second place from the previous race. Drama on the exit of Redgate. Be interesting to see what happened there, Reese, but that is big development there at the first corner.
Yeah, and a fair bit of damage there to the front of Luke Pullen, but here we are. So Glenn Humberston still leading the way. He had a great start. Kip Stevens in P2. But look at Paul Cook. We talked about how important Joe Winter's start was in race 2. It's Joe Winter. It's Paul Cook who here in race 3 is now up into 3rd place. And then Craig McDonald 4th, Martin Shirley 5th, and Alistair Hatcher in P6. Can he catch Glenn Humberston for honours or not? We'll find out. But as we come to the end of lap 1, we've got Paul Cook all over the back of Kip Stevens.
Another good start from one of the SimTech drivers. We just say it'd be interesting to see Paul Cook. He's doing exactly the same round the outside of Kip Stevens and Redgate. He has to get up extremely early to make that one work, especially against Kip, but he's going to have a go. But Kip will have the inside line down the crane of curves, and more importantly for old hairpin. But will Paul Cook keep it pinned? They are pretty much side by side. Kip Stevens still on the inside. Right, the outside is Cook. They make contact. Cook goes wide. Stevens goes wide. And that's going to allow Craig McDonald up into 2nd place. And that is Martin Shirley also benefiting, taking 3rd place. But contact there between Stevens and Cook. Bit of a blinking issue there, connection for Kip Stevens, but he is back now. Paul Cook probably not be too happy about that, but as they say, a little bit of lean in there. I think as far as touring cars concerned, that was pretty standard touring car racing there.
Yes, and that's really let Glenn Humberston get away. Our AM driver is leading by 2.2 seconds. And he's got Craig McDonald and Martin Shirley who are going side by side down into the Roberts chicane there. Martin Shirley getting past Craig McDonald for overall P2. Now we saw how great his pace was in lap 1. We didn't talk about him as a potential winner, but he's now got Glenn Humberston in his sights, potentially. But Paul Cook, he's managed to recover to P4, so even after that contact, getting pushed potentially, we're not assigning blame here, but being pushed potentially wide, he's now back up into P3. He's just squeezed back Kip Stevens, so on the second lap of asking, a little bit less contact as well. He's back into the podium places, and they've got the pair of SimTech cars bearing down on Glenn Humberston. Can he hold on? Hopefully he can. Joe Winter, he's had a bit of a nightmare so far. He's still down in P14. Yeah, we'll see how this race develops.
Got a driver in pits. Oh, good contact there! I was just about to say, Craig McDonald's car looked very loose going into the old hairpin, and there's also Wayne Douglas fishtailing as well. It looks like it was McDonald lost it going into McLean's, and where car behind was so close, bumps into the back of it, and that could be damage as well for 2 cars involved. Ian Manners in the pits as well as Swazi Fitzpatrick, so we have 2 Velocitas in the pits. We said there could be a bit more drama in this 3rd race with the reverse grid. That is proving to be the case at the moment. It'll be interesting as well if we can see what happened between Luke Pullen and Joe Winter on the first lap as well. That was a key moment in the race, but at the moment it is Glenn Humberston, the AM driver, who has the lead. In 2nd place is Martin Shirley, and we see Alistair Hatcher, our AM winner from the first 2 races, going into the pits as well. So Alistair Hatcher could lose that perfect record. So many stories to tell, and we're not even a third of the way through this race.
Yes, it's been exciting so far. Humberston lead's already come down to 2 seconds, so those two SimTech boys are coming after him as we speak. We've got Kip Stevens in P4, but now I think we've got a replay of those incidents from earlier on.
So here we go then.
So this is the start.
Let's have a look at that. So that is James Neve. I think this is going to be the incident between the Luke Pullen and Joe Winter that we're about to see. So we're on board now with, that is Luke Pullen. So he goes down the inside into Redgate. That is Joe Winter on the outside. So has there been contact with another car? Oh, it's Pullen. It looks like Winter maybe potentially have been going sideways, but a very bizarre incident there, Reese. It just seemed like they met in the middle, but quite how Winter got into that position. I don't think it was contact with Pullen to start with, but an external view may provide the key for that one. But I would say both drivers have been severely hampered by that one, as we now have another look, as we say, from the external camera. I think potentially maybe even Joe Winter had lost it and was already sort of going 180 degrees across the track at the time. But this external replay will probably give us a good indication of what happened. Also, not a very good start there for Wayne Douglas either. He seems to drop a few places as well at the start. But here we go. Oh, but Douglas involved as well. So yeah, there was a little bit of contact. I didn't think it was Luke Pullen. It was Wayne Douglas involved there as well. Just very tight there on the first lap at Redgate, and a bit of a coming together. But battle for the lead is hotting up now. Martin Shirley has got past Glenn Humberston on the run down towards the rubbish chicane, but Humberston tries to break late. He's going to try and fight Martin Shirley, but it's to no avail. And Paul Cook can take both positions there. He's gone past Humberston. Humberston on the grass, and Paul Cook is on the outside of Martin Shirley. And these two teammates are side by side going into Redgate. And you've got to think potentially that Paul Cook will have the pace to get past Shirley, but goes wide. Glenn Humberston third. James Neve as well. Don't rule out James Neve. Currently in fourth position, as we see there. It's Shirley who has the lead from Paul Cook. Glenn Humberston leading out in third. He's not giving up on his battle with the Paul Cook. Our overall winner. Oh, that's so close there. And Reese, Humberstone is definitely a lot of fight in him today.
Yeah, he's not looking at classes. He knows Hatch has already been to the pits. Jones is back in P9. He's thinking, you know what, I'm going to have me some fun. I'm going to have me some fight here. He's just lost out to James Neve up into McLean's. But he's still P4. He's still got 5 cars. In fact, he's sent it back up. What a send up into Coppice. He's just about kept it on the track. James Neve saw him coming, cuts back inside for an over-under. Yeah, Glenn Humberston, plenty of fight in him. Like a lion, not wanting to let anybody go. But the two Simtech cars are away, and I think, yeah, James Neve's just starting to break away a little bit. But Glenn Humberston, he's got some fight in him, that's for sure. Kip Stevens is next on the horizon for him, and I'm sure he's just watched all that and gone, oh, I need to give this guy some space. As Wayne Douglas sends it in on Kip Stevens, these guys, they're treating it more and more like a touring car race. Bit of jaw banging as they come into Hollywood. Here we are, and now down through the crane of curves. They've given each other the doors once or twice already, and yet Wayne Douglas making it on through. And I'm sure they've both got a big smile on their face and a small repair bill on some dented doors there. As they come out the old hairpin.
Kip Stevens gone wide though, and that has allowed the car of Lee Holmes, who had a very probably below par for his standards, race 1 and 2, finds himself into 6th place. But all this fighting has actually pulled Joe Winter and Luke Pullen not too far behind. Joe Winter, in fact, on the back of this pack at the moment. The first car you'll need to go past is Luke Jones, who is currently 2nd place in the AM class in the Audi RS3, but is not too far away from catching this pack. And of course, we got the cars from 4th backwards in this pack, so although the race didn't start very well for Joe Winter, depending how fast he can go past Luke Jones, there is the opportunity for more places. But at the front, his two teammates are running 1 and 2. James Neve keeping up with them, but the main battle on track at the moment is this huge train, 4th place behind Glenn Humberston.
Yes, Wayne Douglas there fighting his way to stay ahead of Lee Holmes. We've got the 288 Tech cars there at the front of this pack. And maybe a bit of Glenn Humberston's tactic is, you know what, can I back people up? Can I back people up for my teammate? You know, if I can slow Wayne Douglas down a touch, can Lee squeeze on past and I'll let him go and act as kind of a defending as a rear gunner, the Sergio Perez kind of style in there. You've got Kip Stevens there as well. You know he's not going to give any room, any quarter, as Wayne Douglas looks up the inside from Cleans. No dice there at all. In fact, it's now Lee Holmes up into P4. And we appear to have lost Glenn Humberstone, actually.
Yeah.
He's now
Glenn
30-odd
Humberstone,
seconds
yeah.
down. So he's,
And,
yeah, so some issue just there for him. And I say that's released the pack. So it's now time to see what pace Holmes and Douglas have got versus each other. Joe Winter is up to 8 now. So again, it's a fair recovery drive for him. Lee Holmes is probably just glad he's not been caught up in instant in clean so far as we head into the final 5 minutes.
Still 5 minutes to go, Reece. You might have put the curse on him there. But Shirley and Cut 1-2 with James Neve in third. But yeah, Glenn Humberstone in the pits. So I wonder what's happened there for Glenn Humberstone to go in the pits, because he was running in 4th place and had that train of cars behind him. At the moment, we also have 2 cars who will not be classified at the end of this race, which are Ian Manners and Swazzy Fitzpatrick in the 2 Velocitas. They are now 5 laps down. But as you see, Glenn Humberstone is currently in the pits. So Alistair Hatcher is a lap down, but is still in the race. So 1 lap down will be fine for him. But at the front, this battle between the 2 Simtech teammates of Shirley and Cook, they're staying line of stern at the moment, but they're also not pulling away from James Neve. James Neve is on the back of those 2 Simtech cars, so they're not able to battle at the moment, because even if they wanted to, they got the chance that they could lose the positions to the Year 1 TV car behind of James Neve. So James Neve in 3rd place. 4th place is Lee Holmes. 5th is Wayne Douglas. And in 6th place, and currently 2nd in Pro-Am, is Rob Jackson. We saw him have a non-start in the 2nd race, but whatever difficulties he had in that 2nd race, which stopped him taking part, has managed to solve those and is in 2nd in Pro-Am. And as you say, Joe Winter up into 7th place. He's gone past Kip Stevens now as well, so another place gained for Joe Winter. 9th place is Luke Jones, and then Luke Pullen rounds out the top 10. 11th is Craig McDonald, and 12th, 1 lap down currently, is Alistair Hatcher. So we have 11 cars on the lead lap. At the moment, it's the top 3 who are very close. And we've also got that battle as well between the 4th place and Joe Winter. It's very close to Rob Jackson, I believe. So that could be, he's gone 3. So Winter up into 6th place. I see he's gone past Rob Jackson, and Rob Jackson in the 585 car is another driver running for Simtech. So potentially that was maybe not the most difficult overtake that Joe Winter will have to do all night, but he has made the position his own. And the next target will be to try and catch Wayne Douglas for a spot in the top 5.
Yes, no, the pack's coming together quite nicely. Joe Winter recovering very well after that early incident where, funny enough, he had that contact with Wayne Douglas, so maybe a little bit of revenge if you realise. Took us a few looks at the replay to see what had happened. If Joe Winter's seen it, it might have just got him fired up, a little bit more inspired to catch Wayne Douglas. Not that he needs an extra motivation. Looking at the front of our pack, it's still just 0.2 of a second between those 2 Simtech cars, with the Pro-Am of Martin Shirley leading the way, not just in class, but overall too. James Neve, who, don't forget, he also had his podium in race 2 as well, looking for another solid haul of points here in race 3, and potentially rounding out our podium. But if there's any spilt milk, if there's any flying car parts between the 2 Simtech cars, then James Neve will be there to pick up any pieces as and when they come. So it's still all to play for as we head into the final 2 laps of our race here, Dan.
Luke Pullen's had a good lap this lap. He overtook the car of Luke Jones going into Redgate, and it looks like Kip Stevens has got to slow down coming out of Coppice. So 2 places for Luke Pullen up into 8th place. But as you say, we have got 2 laps to go here at Donington to come down a week off straight. So Luke Pullen potentially may see if he can go past the car of Rob Jackson ahead of him. That will actually be for 2nd in the AM class. Pullen already up into 3rd place, which is a podium in that category. At the front, to say it's pretty much as it was. Martin Shirley, Paul Cook and James Neve are together at the front. No moves being made there, but only 0.3 between each of those, so quite close racing. And 4th place is Lee Holmes. He'll be happy with that after the first 2 races, as I said earlier. 5th place is Wayne Douglas. That'll be his highest finish of the night as well. Fuel issues potentially for him in the first race. And there we go. That is a battle for the lead. A bit closer than we saw last time, Reece. And as we come to start the final lap very shortly, could we see a move between... I don't think necessarily between the 2 teammates. I think maybe James Neve sticking a cheeky nose in somewhere.
Yeah, Paul Cook's in a very difficult position here, Dan. Because on the one hand, he doesn't want to be too aggressive. He doesn't want to fight his teammate too hard. Doesn't want to jeopardise the race. But sometimes attack's the best form of defence. Defence is going to be what he has to be thinking about because he's got James Neve right behind him. He's got no teammates in the top 3. He's not thinking about, oh, I hope the 2 in front of me, let's not cost the team points. As you see, he's taking so much curve, leaping through Redgate corner there. It cost him a small amount of momentum, but with a double slipstream from the 2 in front here on the final lap, will be away. Yeah, so a tight battle here for the podium. Will Paul Cook send it? Or will he play the team game? He is obviously team leader in the sense that it's the Pro Car versus the Pro-Am. But hopefully he can get that done. And there's plenty of tight battles through the field as well, so I'm keeping an eye on the timings. As we come up into McLean's, Cook is 3 tenths behind. Neve's just starting to close back in, but he might be too far back. But it's a fantastic view to watch. Those 2 cars going side by side almost into Coppice there. And yeah, it's just 3 tenths back. I don't think Paul Cook's going to get there. He's too far back down the back straight. As we head past the Motor Museum just there on Lee left, down into the Robert Chicane for the final time here in race 3. It looks like Martin Shirley, the Pro-Am. Barney's waving his flag in the air. Looks like Martin Shirley is going to win round 3 at Donington. Paul Cook second, James Neve in 3rd place. And we've got a bit of a wait back for Lee Holmes who comes home in 4th. Joe Winter in 5th. Douglas pits on in. What's going on there? Cullen ends up taking 6th. Jackson 7th. Jones 8th. And then Douglas. Douglas is going to be classified P11, I believe, with Kip Stevens in P9. And then we've got McDonald in P11. And then you've got the cars a lap down. You've got Alistair Hatcher in P12. Only 1 lap down though, so still eligible for reverse grid. And then you've got Ian Manners, who did come back out and actually overtook Glenn Humberston on track in P13. And then Humberston P14. And then Fitzpatrick also not classified in P15. What action there, Dan?
Yeah, and the first Pro-Am win of the season as well. It's only taken 3 races, but Martin Shirley has taken the race victory and a 3rd win for Simtech with 3 different drivers as well. So Simtech not only have 1 capable driver winning races, they've had 3 in our first 3 races. Very bizarre about Wayne Douglas there as well. One thing I did think potentially, has he got himself a drive-through? Because in the championship there is a instant limit of 15x. Once you get those 15 incidents, you will get yourself a drive-through penalty. And if you are new to iRacing, you can get penalties through different methods. You get a 1x if you exceed trail limits and go off, 2x for a loss of control or a spin, and 4x for contact. Although in the TCR cars, the 4x is a bit harder to get than some of the normal cars, but could have been a factor there. We won't know for sure though. But what we do know is that Martin Shirley has taken victory. It's a 3rd, as we say, for Simtech, and also takes a Pro-Am win there as well. So Martin Shirley with a double win with the overall and the Pro-Am lead. Pro-Am win,
sorry to interrupt there, Dan, but just as I'm looking at my timing screen, it looks like Wayne Douglas, he's got 16 instant points, so he's gone over the threshold there. So that's why he pitted on the final lap. So despite having some great wheel-to-wheel racing, he's potentially took that a touch too far. Maybe got caught up in some of other people's instance as well. We saw him get caught up in turn 1. I think he also got caught up in the McLean's instance as well. And yeah, he's dropped to the back. But Dan, if you'd like to talk us through our podium.
So here we go then. It is the podium for our 3rd race of the evening on the championship. It's Martin Shirley on pole position, Paul Cook in 2nd. And in 3rd place, rounding out the podium, is James Neve. So it is 2 drivers from Simtech Racing and a Year 1 driver on the podium. And 3/4 of the way through the evening already is as we see the full results. There's Martin Shirley from Paul Cook just under half a second there. James Neve in 3rd place. Lee Holmes, a much better display in 4th. And Joe Winter with a fierce fight back into 5th place. Luke Pullins 6th. Those are the 2 drivers who got caught up in that first lap schmozzle at Redgate. Rob Jackson takes 7th, and Luke James in 8th place. And Luke James actually in this one takes the AM victory. So the first non-victory in the AMs for Alistair Hatcher. Luke James breaks that one. Kip Stevens in 9th, and Craig McDonald rounds out the top 10. Then Wayne Douglas in 11th place, who said he was getting involved in some feisty action. He did get a drive-through penalty and finishes 11th, and has had time added to his race time, I see there as well. Darcy finished a lap down and classifies Alistair Hatcher, so crucially, he will take 2nd in AM. And we have 3 drivers who are non-classified, and these are Glenn Humberston, Ian Manners, and Suarez Fitzpatrick. But what that will mean is if we do have a full reverse grid, essentially that will only be 12 cars because of the non-finishers in that race. And speaking of the wheel, it makes is another appearance tonight. Its third appearance. Graham has pressed the button, and it looks like it could actually be quite a low number. It is our lowest number we get. That's 8. So that puts the AM driver Luke Jones on pole position. He'll be joined by Rob Jackson, who finished 3rd in Pro-Am, and a second row of Luke Pullen and Joe Winter. So Joe Winter in this one will be starting on the 2nd row, and that could be a rather interesting proposition for Joe Winter. We saw how well he started when he was further back. So from 5th place, that could be a contender for the final race win of the evening. But as I say, Reese, 8-car reverse, that hasn't been too bad for those drivers at the front.
It's been fairly kind, as say, it might bring the field that little bit closer together. But yeah, you're right, we saw Joe Winter make fantastic progress in the race 2 reverse grid. We actually saw him make fantastic progress in race 3 as well. You've got to remember, at the start of the race, he was pointing all manner of the wrong way coming out of Redgate Corner after that contact, and he brought it all the way back to P5 from there as well. So we've had a very strong race 1 from Joe Winter, and then we've had 2 brilliant recoveries in race 2 and race 3 as well. So he's got to be thinking, you know what, actually starting P5, it's probably going to be his easiest night's work from there, hopefully, if he can get through turn 1 unscathed. But I'm sure Luke Pullen, Rob Jackson and Luke Jones ahead of him going to have something to say about that. And then Lee Holmes, finally for Lee Holmes, an instant free race. Well, maybe not completely instant free, but an instant free race that doesn't cost him too much time. Gets him to P4, and then James Neave with his 2nd podium for the night there in P3 as well. So plenty to watch out for. It's not going to be easy for Cook or Shirley to make their way through the field, that's for sure. But if they follow the Joe Winter blueprint, maybe anything can happen.
Exactly, and I say that is all to come. It'll be our final race of the evening here at Donington Park, and we'll be back with that shortly after this break. Good evening and welcome back to bit premature there, ladies and gentlemen, but now we are ready to be back for round 4 of the BSR TC. We are at Donington Park National for the final race of the season. We have an 8-car reverse grid, our shortest reverse of the night so far, Reese, and that does mean that our main players from most of the night, really, will be up near the front of the grid, and I think we can see some quite close action in this one.
Well, Dan, I think unintentionally you've said the watchword twice there, and that is night. Conditions have taken a turn for the worse here at Donington, and it's going to make it a bit more interesting to broadcast as well, because the sun's gone down, I believe, just on loading into the session, and visibility is going to be not just difficult for the drivers. I've seen no floodlights at Donington at all, but difficult for us calling it as well. I say it is very, very dark out on track right now. I'm just looking at the cars warming up in the practice session. And to be fair, Joe Winter has done a fastest lap of 11.3 so far in the warm-up session, which is incredible. He's only 6 tenths off his best time in the daytime. And, well, apart from 2 beams of headlights, can't see where he's going. So it'll be a fun one to call. It's going to be 15 minutes of what goes bump in the dark, I think. But looking forward to this one, Dan.
Extra element to the racing there, because we got, as we're about to see on stream, here we go, on board. Oh, that is the 35 we're looking on board with Lee Holmes as he going down the crane of curves. Not a lot that can be seen there for Lee Holmes. This practice session has about 10 seconds left to go, so we will very shortly be going to the grid. As we say, the top 8 are reversed in this one, and as you say, Reece, things could very well go bump in the night here, especially when it's touring car racing we're talking about tonight.
It's given me some early 90s touring cars at Silverstone vibes in the dark with the lights on. To be honest with you, looking at the onboard there of the 35 of Lee Holmes, I was pleasantly surprised at how good the visibility was for him. I'm going to need to find out who supplies Hyundai's headlights. And on the subject of brands as well, I know you're going to run through the grid in a moment, but Luke Jones in the Audi is on pole for us. But Dan, if you'd like to do the full run through of the running order.
So that is correct. Luke Jones in the Audi on pole. Alongside him is Rob Jackson. The second row will consist of Luke Pullen and Joe Winter. Row 3, Lee Holmes and James Neve. Paul Cook and Martin Shirley on row 4. Kip Stevens and Craig McDonald round out the top 10. Outside the top 10 we have Rain Douglas at 11th, Alistair Hatcher 12th, and the 3 cars who are non-classified from that race were Glenn Humberston, Ian Manners and Swati Fitzpatrick. As we are about to get underway for the final time tonight, Luke Jones will be looking to get a good start, and he has had a very good launch, Luke Jones. Rob Jackson and Luke Pullen not able to get near, so probably one of the best starts of the night from pole position, because you see some cheeky headlight flashing going on, and that could be another way to distract your adversary in this race, of course, with the lights. But Luke Jones going down crane the curve in the lead. Luke Pullen in second place to year 1. Rob Jackson in third, going pretty wide there, lucky just to keep it on the track, but it has cost him a position. And speaker going wide, our pole position man, Luke Jones, he's been clattered as well.
No.
Just for his troubles. Luke Jones made the first half of the lap alright, got down to Old Hairpin, gone wide, has been clattered by one of the other cars. I believe that was Rob Jackson as well from near the front of the field. So 2 drivers at the start who are near the front not having a good time. Kip Stevens is going to go off onto the gravel as well, but Paul Cook up into second place already. But he'll be chasing after the year 1 driver of Luke Pullen, and he's in a bit of a year 1 sandwich, but went wide there on the exit of Cloppis. That's going to allow James Neve and the car Martin Shirley to maybe have a challenge. Shirley thinks better of it. James Neve will try and stick it down. There's potentially contact into the wrist. A little bit of a bump there. There is a bump in the night already. It has happened before the end of lap 1.
Yes, and Martin Shirley looks like he's going to try it around the outside of his teammate now, down into Redgate. As James Neve's looking up the inside, it's going to be 3 wide into Redgate in the dark. 3 to 1, doesn't go, chaps. Someone's going to have to give. Martin Shirley runs slightly wide, and it looks like James Neve is going to get by on the inside. He's trying to tell, who's this coming through? He's sneaking up by, it's Wayne Douglas. We've not spoken about him yet. As you see him and Paul Cook actually banging doors coming down through the crane of curves. Looking back from James Neve in second. He's got a 2-second gap up to his teammate, Luke Pullen already. Luke Pullen scrambling away as everyone's fighting behind. And a shout out as well to Joe Winter. He had a very difficult start. He dropped back from his P5. At one point he was being shown 10th on lap 1. So he must have struggled to get away from the line. But after it's all come through, it's all washed out. He's in P7 just there. But we've got the 2 Simtech cars now. They'll be breathing down on James Nick. They're getting themselves organised as they've done all night. It's a year one versus Simtek Racing battle at the front of the field. So interesting to see how this one will shake out. But yeah, drivers doing very well considering the adverse lighting conditions, I think.
An animal start from Wayne Douglas as well. And if you remember, he had that drive-through at the end of the race outside the top 10. Finds himself at the end of lap 2 in 3rd place. So Wayne Douglas with one of the starts of the night as well. But as you say, it is a year 1-2. I'm saying that too quickly. Luke Pullen in first with James Neave in second. Wayne Douglas third. You got Martin Shirley as well. He was the race winner from our previous race, up 4 positions, up into 4th. With Simtek teammate Paul Cook is in 5th. And currently leading the AM class for the 3rd time tonight is Alistair Hatcher. Craig McDonald there we're looking at 9th place. A little bit wide there on the exit of Old Hairpin as we go on board with our AM leader, Alistair Hatcher. He has Joe Winter just behind him, and you can just tell even there, going through McLean's, difference in line between the two of them. Winter a lot more shallower. Looks to go down inside the coppice. Oh, it's shut firmly in the face there by Alistair Hatcher. Maybe an AM driver, but as we saw earlier with Glenn Humberston, they can be extremely feisty. Joe Winter not impressed there at all. Flash of the headlights.
Yes, classic touring car intimidation move there from Joe Winter. And you've got James Neave there in P2, with Wayne Douglas now up to 3rd, and then Shirley and Cook in 4 and 5. So, say, another car in between the year 1 and the Simtek cars there. But yeah, Douglas onto the podium now. James Neave also sets fast to that. Oh, there's a bit of a sun there from Joe Winter. He desperately wants to get past Alistair Hatcher. He knows full well that the longer he spends behind him, the bigger the gap's going to get to the cars in front. And you can see he's just trying to send it. He needs to call his jets. He needs to get a run, potentially coming out the old hairpin here. Get a run up the big old hill to McLean's. You don't realise how steep this hill is until you've had to walk up it or drive up it in real life. It is one heck of a climb. You can see he's gaining, but still not quite close enough. And you can still see those 3 cars in front. Wayne Douglas potentially slightly holding up the 2 Simtek cars. James Neave just breaking away from them. Neave's actually catching Pullen. The gap's now down to just below a second. But it looks like Joe Winter has got up the inside of Alistair Hatcher coming out of Coppice. And now side by side, drag racing down to Robert Chicane. In fact, Hatcher's lifted out. Is that not just Winter, but also Lee Holmesby as well. Maybe that's smart, maybe that's a tactical play for class. Or maybe he had a slowdown. Who knows? But here we are. So yeah, so the pros starting to work their way through the AMs just now. But yeah, some fantastic action with just under 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, looks like they're from the same team, those 3 cars as well, 88 Tech. So maybe a bit of teamwork in play there as we saw McDonald and Holmes go past Hatcher. But that move by Winter at Reggae, that was a true definition of licking the stamp and sending it. Not quite successful on that attempt, but he has managed to get through later in the lap. Has cost him a bit of time though, but at the front, it is still the year 1 drivers 1-2. Luke Pullen, of course, real life experience in the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship, one of the hottest contested MX-5 championships in the country. But he knows how to race at close quarters, but it's his teammate James Neave behind him at the moment. And they are steadily pulling away from Wayne Douglas. Not too much difference in the times last lap, but it does look like they have that sort of safe margin at the moment between. Oh, that sounded like a massive curb strike there from James Neave. The underside of that car will be screaming mercy. It's only got another 8 minutes to last this evening, but these 2 year 1 drivers sitting pretty at the moment in 1st and 2nd. But you've got to think, it's only going to be a matter of time if Martin Shirley and Paul Cook can get past Wayne Douglas before they start to make an attack, as James Neave gets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:11.080. 2 year 1 boys at the moment. It's formation flying, but for the first time tonight, it's not going to be from Simtek.
Indeed, doing very well. The year 1-2, it's definitely on, trademark. But we're looking forward to it. As I say, you've got James Neave in P2. You've got to think maybe the smart money will be on. If he does get a run on Luke Pullen, looks like he might have a little bit more pace than his teammate. So smart money would be to swap the 2 cars on around, let James Neave through and see if he can stretch his legs and break away the chasing pack behind. It does look like Wayne Douglas might have just taken a 10th or 2 out of them so far this lap, as he's been pressed hard by the Simtek duo of Shirley and Cook. And then you've got Winter a further 1.3 seconds back from that as well. So that Simtek trio there, back in their formation almost, as Winter slowly gaining up. He's got Holmes right behind him though as well. And say, looks like Luke Pullen not just winning the race overall, also winning Pro-Am at the moment with Alistair Hatcher in Am.
Martin Shirley starting to get a bit impatient there behind Wayne Douglas. Went to go down the inside at Redgate. Wasn't able to make it work. They were actually catching up with the 1-2 in front of them, but not quite able to do it. And this will allow them to put a gap out if they're going to start fighting for third place. But Wayne Douglas, it'd be a chance for a first podium of the season for him. He's not had the best of evenings tonight. He's had a couple of last lap dramas in the races. Just seen him drop back, but it does look like he has maybe got a little bit of pace. Joe Winter was very quick on the last lap. He did a time of a 1:10.910, including a purple sector and sector 2. And he's done exactly the same on this lap as well. So Joe Winter setting fast times in the second sector. The gap between Douglas and James Neave is coming down. It's down to about 1.3 now, where it was sort of a second and a half before. So slowly but surely, Wayne Douglas is dragging the Simtech cars up with him, but he's only going to have about 6.5 minutes to try and do something with it. As far as the classes go, in the overall and Pro-Am lead is Pullen, with Shirley second and McDonald third. In Pro class, it is currently James Neave leading, with Wayne Douglas second and Paul Cook in third. And in Am, it is a battle between Alistair Hatcher and Glenn Humberston on track as well, separated by just under half a second. And in third place is Luke Jones. And Luke Jones started on pole position. It went badly wrong for him down into 13th. But at the moment, we still do actually have all 15 cars still running in the session. As we look at the year 1-2, still in process between Luke Pullen and James Neave. And you've got to think, Reese, is there going to be a time when maybe James Neave thinks that Douglas is getting a bit too close to him and he needs to make a move? And see there, Pullen maybe not quite making the exit, the apex, as well as James Neave has done. And again, Wayne Douglas takes another couple of attempts. And as we see a battle here, where the back that was going into Coppice, and that is the pole position man, Luke Jones, currently down in 13th place in one of the Audi RS3s, in fact the lone Audi RS3 in the race. And the battle ahead of him is between Glenn Humberstone, Suarez, Fitzpatrick and Ian Manners, the two Velosters. And Fitzpatrick not had the best of the last two races. He's actually been non-classified in both of them, so at least on this occasion, Reece, Fitzpatrick going to get points. And although having two in a row DNFs, not the way you really want to start the season, but trying to make amends for it in this race.
That'll hurt him. And you've got Humberston there flashing his lights. He's shown his aggression all season long so far. Yeah, looking great throughout the field. Humberston at one point was challenging Thatcher for the lead in Am, and it's now dropped a couple of places behind. So the gap is still only just shy of 2 seconds back to Alistair Hatcher. And the gap's still holding fairly steady at the front whilst we're looking down the field here. But don't worry, you're not missing any action just there at all, folks. But yeah, really enjoying this final race in the TCR as Glenn Humberston just runs a little bit wide, actually, just into the cleans. Lets the cars in front get away. We're too wide up ahead into Coppice. It looks like Manners trying to get past McDonald. He's got Fitzpatrick there. Oh, we're too wide now between Fitzpatrick and Manners going down towards the Robert chicane. Okay, a great view on board from Glenn Humberston here. And so we'll see who comes out on top. You've got Patrick on the inside. Oh, and they bang doors, and Humberston's going to get a great run. Fitzpatrick's off onto the grass, and I think Glenn Humberston's going to get them both. Fitzpatrick does come back on, and it looks like Humberston's just going to inch ahead of Ian Manners just there. So a fantastic piece of opportunism there from Glenn Humberston, getting himself past the Pro-Am and the Pro driver there. So really well done from him, and maybe just dropping that little bit back, having that spot to observe has opened it up, and he's now only half a second back from Alistair Hatcher as well. So all of a sudden, in the space of a lap, he's gone from having two cars between them being second half back. It's now just half a second. But looking at this, Manners is coming straight back at him, and Humberston was saying, "No, I've got an AM race to be having here. Leave me alone." But it looks like Ian Manners gets up the inside, coming out of McLean's. He's going to just about keep his nose the inside into Coppice. They've got to give room. They haven't give room. And there goes Glenn Humberston off into the gravel at Coppice there. I think Ian Manners just about kept it on the road. But he'll be a bit slow. He'll be under pressure now from Fitzpatrick coming down the back straight there. Or he's under pressure from somebody, I think. It's hard to tell. Joys of it being dark. We're in deepest, darkest Leicestershire. Definitely here, guys, by Eastman Temple. And After all of that, it's 3 laps to go. And they're starting to catch
Yeah.
the front. It's Wayne Douglas 8 tenths behind now on James Neave.
Just going to say it is starting to close up at the front. That battle we're seeing on track is between, that was Fitzpatrick in the Prismatic Motorsports car, and Ian Manners racing for Samsoid Dragon, Samsoid Dungeon even. As we look at the front though, it is closing up between Luke Pullen, James Neave and Wayne Douglas. Wayne Douglas, his last lap was a 10th quicker. Wayne Douglas has actually dropped. Martin Shirley's dropped down to 6th. That was something else that we've missed while we've been looking at a battle. It looks like something's happened to Martin Shirley. He was running in 4th place, putting pressure on Wayne Douglas. But now what's happened is Douglas has been released from that Simtech train behind. Shirley has dropped down into 6th. And here we go then. We're going to have 2 laps to go as across the line this time. I think Wayne Douglas sniffing maybe a chance for a potential win, maybe if not 2nd place here, because he has got an opportunity, because he is catching them ever so slightly. The last lap was a little bit slower for Wayne Douglas, but there seems to be a man on the mission at the moment as we see the battle here. James Neave, I think maybe trying to have a signal of intent now on Luke Pullen, because he can see that the Elantra of Douglas is catching corner by corner, and he may be starting to get a little bit, not impatient, but doesn't want to be under attack from Wayne Douglas. And as we see there, Pullen very defensive on the exit of Old Hairpin on the run up towards McLean's.
Yes, James Neave was using all of the track on the way into Redgate Corner, all the way over into pit lane exit. You've got to be careful. There is a slowdown out there. You'll see Wayne Douglas's headlights looming large in his rearview mirror. Wayne Douglas is now right with them. James Neave, will even, if he gets the opportunity, will even bump draft Pullen down the back straight here. We saw it in the MX-5s with Michael Seal on Tuesday. Will it happen in the TCR as we come around to grab the white flag? So it's white flag fever. What will happen between the 2 Year 1 cars? Will Wayne Douglas get there? Joe Winters actually just overtook Paul Cook into P4, so he's had a fantastic recovery after his poor start. But yeah, who's going to come out on top in this final race? As Wayne Douglas sends it! It's up the inside of James Neave.
Oh, bit of contact there. Forced him maybe a little bit wide, but Wayne Douglas in 2nd place. That has brought Joe Winter up to 3rd. But what that could mean, the delay there, is that Luke Pullen is now a 2nd clear. That could be a crucial 2nd. There was again a bit of door handle used there between Douglas and James Neave. James Neave, the big loser out of that one, dropped down into 5th place. Paul Cook has also found a way past James Neave, but it looks like Luke Pullen is just over half a second. It's about 7 tenths difference. I think if Luke Pullen can get Coppice right, that's not too bad of an entry into Coppice. He's actually pulled out a 10th of a second for Wayne Douglas. But on the final lap of the evening here at Donington Park, in the dark, as we see headlights ablaze, Luke Pullen breaks down into the Robert chicane for the final time, takes it. That is going to be it for Luke Pullen. Crosses the start-finish line. Barney there with his flag is ready to give him victory. Win for Luke Pullen. Wayne Douglas takes 2nd place with Joe Winter 3rd, Paul Cook 4th, and James Neave 5th. Oh, there's a bit of contact there after the flag as well. I don't think that was intentional, but as we see there, so the top 3 or 4 separated by just over a 1.5 seconds. Good battles further down the field as well. That's that battle we were looking at before between Hatcher, Fitzpatrick, and in fact Luke Jones getting involved in there as well. Ian Manners dropped down. He was fighting in that battle. And it looks like Glenn Humberstone has had a penalty of some description at the end of the race as well. He's dropped down the timing screens, but it's Luke Pullen taking the first non-Simtech victory of the year, with Wayne Douglas 2nd and Joe Winter in 3rd place. And interesting to see what happened there. Martin Shirley, he was running in 4th place behind Douglas, but whatever happened to Martin Shirley, that sort of in this race, that sort of signified the end of any challenge from Simtech.
Did indeed, but Joe Winter managed to make it all the way back onto P3 after that carnage on the final lap. He also managed to get the fastest lap of the race as well on that last lap as well, so 2 bonus points there for him as we can see the field coming on round. So yeah, fantastic excitement there on the final lap. Maybe a point of contention between Wayne Douglas and James Neave there. I'm sure there might be a few words shared after that one. But yeah, what a fantastic fight we had. Wayne Douglas clawing his way back up to the Year 1 cars and by hook or potentially by crook, he's managed to get involved up onto the inside in Redgate. It was a big send. It looked like he'd got it stopped, and then they just ran out of room on the exit between Redgate and Hollywood, door handle to door handle. Unfortunately, James Neve losing out a touch. He's already had 2 podiums tonight. He was looking to make it 3rd in a row, but ends up rounding it out with a top 5 there, Dan.
Yeah, so as we say, it has been a very interesting night of racing there, and a lot of drivers have very good evenings. As we're about to see the results for round 4 of the final race of the evening here at Donington Park. And as I say, it has been some really, really good door-to-door racing. And it's, compared to what it could have been, driving standards tonight have been extremely good. We haven't seen really anything sort of out of the ordinary. It's been close racing, it's been fraught racing, there has been the odd bit of contact. But good driving standards for the first round of the championship. And that, and in terms of driving standards, that is a good way to leave Donington Park and take on to Brands Hatch, a much tighter circuit at Brands, of course, on the Indy layout.
Yeah, looking forward to Brands Hatch Indy. Say very narrow, very fast, so lots of altitude changes as well. And here we are. So here's our podium. So Dan, take it away.
So there we go. Luke Pullen, thank you very much, Reese. Luke Pullen with his first victory of the season, and I believe actually his first victory in the BSR Touring Cars. He takes the win ahead of Wayne Douglas in 2nd place. And Joe Winter, we've seen that face a lot tonight. He is in 3rd place and takes another podium for Simtech. And the rest of the order, as we see there, Luke Pullen taking a victory by just under a second from Wayne Douglas. Joe Winter running out the podium. Paul Cook, another good drive from him in 4th place. James Neve will feel aggrieved, I think, after that race, but it is another top 5 finish for him in 5th place. In 6th is Martin Shirley, who takes 2nd in Pro-Am, of course, behind the race winner Luke Pullen. 3rd is Lee Holmes, 7th even Lee Holmes. 8th is Craig McDonald, with Alistair Hatcher, the top AM driver, in 9th overall. His 3rd victory out of 4 in AM. Suarez Fitzpatrick takes 10th place for Prismatic. And outside of the top 10, we have Luke Jones in 11th place, taking 2nd in AM. Ian Manners is 12th. 13th, and rounding out the podium in AM is Glenn Humberstone. Rob Jackson finished 14th, and Kip Stevens 15th, some way back. So I think there was potentially a penalty there for Kip Stevens right at the end, as didn't seem to have any issues in the race. But 15 cars finish the last race of the night and the 4th of the season, and that means we've actually had 2 races tonight where every driver has finished. And as I say, that is a very good rate of attrition, considering, as I say, it's touring car racing. There's been a lot of door banging, and it is good to see that we've had on 2 occasions tonight everybody finished who started.
Yeah, they're definitely built with contact in mind. I think they're built tough. They're like an old school Brawn GP car, I suppose, and they're designed to take the odd impact here and there. But yeah, Luke Cullen breaking the Simtech dominance of the evening, and the Simtech cars have looked mighty fast all night, especially in the hands of Cook, Winter, and Shirley. Yeah, done really well. And Wayne Douglas, as I say, he's had a few rough moments tonight, but getting a P2 as well in the final race. So we've got an interview lined up, actually. So we're just waiting on somebody to come in. I'm not sure who we've got, actually, but Dan, if you'd like to prepare some questions, because interview coming on in just in a moment.
It's like a lucky dip. We don't know who we're going to get, but I'm sure we'll find out. It's Joe Winter, I believe. So Hello, Joe. First night of racing here in the BSR touring cars at Donington Park. You've had a really good night of racing. What's been the highlights for you tonight?
I suppose the race 2 victory. Obviously the highlight. I was quite happy with my drive on race 3 after I'd got taken out in the first corner, so I got to get back to, I think it was 5th in that one, was positive. Just a bit frustrated.
I believe you're muted. I believe you were muted there, Joe. On the.
Can you hear me now?
It's muted on the software.
I was going to say I can hear him, but I don't know if he's being broadcast or not. Let us know on YouTube if you can hear him.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, guys? Sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you if you can hear me.
Yeah. Can you hear producer?
Yeah, I've got him. I've just tried it in YouTube. I've got him in YouTube, so I think we're okay. It might be an issue
Yeah.
production
Oh,
end.
okay.
So
That will
it's being
carry on with the
broadcast
interview
anyway.
then.
No, don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry about production. We don't have to hear them. You can say what you want about production because he can't hear you. So far away. It's not
Yeah.
like he's going to watch you back.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe, as we're saying, SimTech guys look really sort of competitive out there tonight. You have 3 cars right at the sharp end. I know you got another quick driver as well, Chris Warner, to come out later in the season, and obviously with you guys at the front of the championship, it looks like at the moment you are one of the teams to beat, if not the team to beat on night one.
Yeah. I mean, we must admit we did adhere to some team orders during the races, and use that to our benefit. But yeah, we've got a strong lineup. Obviously, as you mentioned, Chris is still to come. Who's very quick. He's on holiday this week, but then we've got varying different holidays and work commitments that mean we're going to be missing weeks here and there and everywhere. So fingers crossed when we do all race together we can have sort of nights like tonight again and get us up the championship.
Also, you have a very strong Pro-Am driver there in Martin Shirley, taking an overall pole and an overall win as well. It must be pleasing to know that you're fighting not just for the overall championship, but you've got a chance as well in that Pro-Am championship too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Martin he won't thank me for saying this, but he was a pro last season. But I been reclassified for this season, which I think was correct due to the I rating boundaries that they set. But yeah, he's quick. He had some good results last season, and he was saying in Discord tonight that Donington's one of his favourite tracks. So he did well. Yeah, well, congratulations to him.
Yeah, so next week we go from one track, this is one which is much different in Brands Hatch, India. It's going to be quite tight, quite narrow. How do you find Brands Hatch?
Well, I don't mind Brands Hatch. It's a course or a track I know relatively well. However, that's one of the weeks that I'm going to miss. Unfortunately, I'm away with work on a training course for 2 weeks. So, unfortunately, I'm going to miss next week and the following week. But I'll be back for Snetterton, I think it is. That is my next one, which is a course track I don't know at all. So I'm going to have to buy it and learn it. So.
Sorry to hear that you've been missing the next 2 weeks. I'll hand you over to my co-commentator, Reece Saunders. Reece, have you got any questions for Joe tonight?
Yeah, just how important do you think it'll be for the sake of the championship? Obviously, you're going to use your 2 drop weeks up for your holiday. First off, are you going anywhere nice? And secondly, how important do you think those points are going to be by the end of the season with your 2 wins tonight?
Yeah, well, I'm actually gonna have 3 drop weeks. Obviously, only 2 allowed. I've got the 2 weeks for work next 2 weeks, and then I've got a week in August on holiday. So I'm just gonna have to maximise what I do in the weeks that I'm here, and try and have nights like tonight or even better. I think tonight could have been much better for me. I had a schoolboy error in the last race and somehow managed to pull off in second gear, hence the slow start. And I think if I'd have had a good start there, I was on course or on pace to maybe challenge for the win. So just got to sort of cut out those silly mistakes and hope for good weeks when I am here.
No, your pace was mighty tonight, along with your teammates, and you got the fastest lap of the race as well in race 4 on that final lap as well. So again, 2 more bonus points there for you too. Good,
yeah. I mean, I knew my pace was good through practice, and I think you mentioned Chris previously, who wasn't here this week, but me and him were sort of getting into the 1:10.6s in practice, so we knew we had good pace. It's just nice to put it down in a race when the pressure's on a bit. So I think I did see a 1:10.6 in race 2 or 3. So I think it was race 3. So it's just had good pace tonight. So obviously helped keep us at the top end of the standings.
And last question from me, race 4. What was it like driving in the dark? Had you done any practice? Did you know it was coming? Or because we loaded into the session and we went, oh, who turned off the lights? So what was your reaction?
Yeah.
And had you done any practice?
No, absolutely no practice in the dark. I didn't even think of it. It was, I think the first couple of laps in the warm-up, I was like, I couldn't even see apexes. I just everything. I'd forgotten everything that I'd learned about the track. But I think when you're in a trainer cars, obviously the other lights brighten it up for you. But if I'd have been leading at any point, yeah, I think that would have been difficult. Plenty of off tracks, but certainly no practice. Maybe I'll have to remember that for future weeks and stick some night running into my schedule.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Excellent.
Just one final question before we let you go. Are there any thank yous or dedications you'd like to give out on the stream tonight?
Yeah, well, as ever, thanks to the organisers. It's a thankless task doing this sort of thing. So yeah, obviously, big thanks to them for putting another season on. Obviously, all my teammates in STR. We as I mentioned previously, we had some team orders that we stuck to. So we tried to sort of benefit each other as best we could. And obviously, thanks to you guys for commentating, doing a great job. It's been nice to speak to you.
Thank you very much, Joe. That is Joe Winter, who finishes this 12th race in 3rd place, and very good night overall, popping near the front of the championship. So that is interview there with Joe.
Cheers, guys.
That's okay. So here we go then. So that is our first night of the championship underway, but of course we've got 9 more rounds to follow on. The first night just as good. Hopefully we got 9 more weeks of exciting edge of the seat racing to look forward to, and we have got some really good tracks coming up. As we see here, we've got Brands Hatch Indy next time out for 4 races in Kent before we travel to Silverstone, the home of the British Grand Prix, for the first time, where the touring cars will take on the international layout before a trip to Norfolk to the Snetterton 300 circuit and the Scary Man Tree, which is thankfully been even though not there in real life, he is still there and alive and kicking on the sim. Then we have our away trip to Monza on the Grand Prix circuit. That is going to be one to tune in for sure as we go to Italy and the home of the Italian Grand Prix. We then make a journey up north to Knock Hill, and I know Reese was saying on the stream on Tuesday that is one of the calendar circuits on the calendar he is looking forward to. Knock Hill for the TCRs and of course the MX5 supporting on a Tuesday night. We have Autumn Park Island circuit, our trip into Cheshire, before a return to Donington on the Grand Prix layout. Silverstone National Circuit, that's going to be another tight encounter, that one there, before we finish the season in earnest at Brands Hatch GP, with hopefully all the championships still on the line. So a very exciting calendar there ahead, Reece. I know you said before that Knock Hill was one of the ones you're looking forward to the most. Any other rounds which sort of make you want to lick your lips at?
I think Monza will be fantastic as well. We saw some incredible sends into Redgate Corner tonight, particularly from Wayne Douglas on the final lap of race 4. And I say I'm looking forward to see what he'll be able to do in the big braking zone for the first 2 chicanes at Monza. I'm sure it will be incredibly spicy. And as well, hopefully what we will do better a little bit as a broadcasting team for the next 9 weeks as well is Fitzpatrick. So after doing a little bit of research in the YouTube chat, I have it under good authority that it's Saoirse. And I'm sure I've probably still butchered it slightly, but at least we'll be better going forward. So apologies to you for that. We'll get it right. So yeah, it's Saoirse. We'll remember that one down for next week.
Yeah, I'll write that one down. So that is Saoirse. And also something else that we haven't really mentioned, Reece, we've got some big drivers, we've got big name players who haven't sort of shown their hand yet in the season. Just like Chris Warner for Simtech hasn't come out. Andy McEwen, last season's champion, switched teams for this season. He's racing for year 1. Also, we have Jason Cooper, the real-life BRSCC for Fiesta champion, and also Castle Coombe Saloon champion. So Jason Cooper, we've seen him race in the MX5s, but he also a dab hand in saloon cars. And we also have yet to see an appearance from our AND champion from last season, Fiona Siddons. So, and I expect there's a lot more drivers as well that we haven't seen tonight, and that's going to be one of the unknowns really when we get to Brands Hatch next weekend, not next week even, is where are all these drivers going to fit into the pecking order. I'm sure that the what we've seen tonight probably isn't quite what's going to happen once we get the full complement of cars in.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Simtech, they've put a fairly strong stranglehold on tonight. They've looked like the team to beat for sure, but you've got some, returning names, as you've mentioned, Jason Cooper for 5-star, I believe he drives for, and also Andy McEwen, obviously for year 1 as well. But I say they're bringing out the big guns themselves. They've got Craig Warner turning up next week. But as he mentioned in his interview, we're losing Joe Winter next week. He's away with work. So again, I think we still will have some reduced attendance going forward, just as I say, getting through the month of July with some holidays. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shapes out. And maybe we won't be able to look at a full championship picture until the second half of the season when drop weeks can be accounted for.
So that will bring an end to tonight's broadcast. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed your racing. As I say, myself, Dan Blake, and my co-commentator, Reece Saunders, would like to thank you for watching. Take care, everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see you at the same time next week for more BSRTC action from Brands Hatch. Good night.